My little itty-bitty bruiser buddies.
United States heavyweight champion from Brazil. The world's heavyweight champion from the AWA, Nick Bockwinkel.
The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest Pro Wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
And greetings and welcome to another episode of the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us this week. We're rolling out something new that we're going to try. Every so often, we're going to have some special guest co-hosts on the show to help me open it up and chat with me a little bit. We got a very special one here tonight. On this episode, we've got the one and only Bobby Fulton. Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Dave, and I appreciate this opportunity to get a chance to talk to all your listeners out there, all the great wrestling fans worldwide, and especially on your show here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Of course, we had you on once before, talked about your career, but
right.
It's going to do a little different today. We got a couple interviews on the show today. One of them we got with Gary Woronchak. Bobby, you know Gary Woronchak, right?
I know of Gary Woronchak, and he was he the guy that did the pictures and stuff?
He did, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, very young, sir. Was taking pictures for the Sheik in Detroit. Yep.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. I know him.
Yep.
Yes.
And
all those guys, Brian Buchanan, Dave Supermount Grayson. I can't say his name. Brzezinski, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think
Dave
so. Yeah.
Grayson. But all those guys, man, I love that Detroit territory, and thank God they were there to take the pictures and everything. I mean, I'm tickled to death. But, yeah, I know you're talking about him, Gary. He's going to be on the program as well today.
Yeah, he is. He did a lot. He took pictures for the Sheik. He booked some shows up in that area for the NWA back with kind of the regional thing, and then he ended up running Midwest Territorial Wrestling, doing a lot of different things over the years. Yeah, so yeah, I got a good talk with him. And we got a Whatever Happened To with a kind of a local tag team that used to work here about 25 years ago here in Indiana called the Bravehearts. And that got me thinking, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because, I mean, who better to talk a little tag team wrestling than Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so
that's nice.
And I like to, obviously, we kind of focus on Midwest wrestling here on the show. So what do you remember as a kid? What are some tag teams that kind of caught your eye as a kid?
Well, of course, the Fabulous Kangaroos as a kid. Mm-hmm. Ben Justice and a guy that wrestled a lot in Indiana there, the Stomper, Guy Mitchell, who was Jerry Valiant.
Right, absolutely.
They made a great tag team. The Bruiser and the Crusher, man. I mean, and think about it. Back in those days, we didn't have the Internet. Yeah. But we had the national magazines at the local drug stores or the bookstores that we would go in, and I learned so much from those wrestling guides, wrestling reviews, Inside Wrestling, Big Book of Wrestling, Ring Wrestling, and all the magazines like that about the different wrestlers and stuff like that. But to me, I always liked the wrestling. I read about the Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher, of course, Over Your Way, but because it was regional. My wrestlers were the wrestlers that came out of Detroit and, of course, filtered down into Ohio.
Right.
Was those teams I said, Killer Brooks later and Ben Justice, beautiful Ben Justice, the Germans, von Hess and von Schatz, and with George Cannon, the Mongols, which one was Bill Eadie, and, of course, Gito Bolo and Gito Mongol. Teams like that, the Love Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Would come out and preach love and get in the ring and break rules. A lot of interesting tag teams like that back in those days.
Yeah, when early in your career, you got to work, or you worked a lot over the years. We talked last time we had John about the Currys. Talk to us about Bull and Fred.
Bull and Fred Curry.
Yeah.
Oh, they were a tremendous tag team, and I got a chance to wrestle them, of course, and they were huge, big time fan favorites. Of course, Wild Bull Curry, when he was a rule breaker, he one of my early memories of him and James Painter, Big Jim Lancaster, was him breaking Jim's jaw on TV, and I remember him, and I can't remember if it was Lord Atherley or Bob Finnegan saying, I believe he's broke his jaw the way his mouth is hanging open and it's kind of something or another.
Yeah.
But Wild Bull Curry and Flying Fred Curry was over big time. They were tremendous names in Ohio and Michigan, of course, and fringes of Kentucky and West Virginia, and they were big stars in Texas. And the different territories they worked in, they were both amazing. And I mean, think about it. When these guys are beating up on, and another team was, just think about the Hells Angels, California Hells Angels.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Colton, Ron Dupree. But when they were beating up on Flying Fred, and you got Wild Bull Curry standing over there, and the people are saying, if they tag that Wild Bull Curry, buddy, it's all going to break loose, and it usually did. And they were a tremendous tag team. People I truly admire. I consider Flying Fred Curry a big mentor of mine in professional wrestling, and I got a chance to make some trips with his father as well, Wild Bull Curry, and that was pretty interesting, and wrestled them when I was 16, 17 years old, and what amazing people, what an amazing family. And,
absolutely.
You know, one thing I knew from the trips and stuff, that Fred had such a love and a respect for his father.
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing. But both Flying Fred especially helped me so much. And actually, Dave, I'm a lot better heel than I ever was a baby face.
Yeah.
And I feel like that if I would have, but I got my arm broken in a riot, and it changed the course. And of course, it's written in history, the Bobby Fulton, the fantastic baby face. But actually, I was always twice the heel that I ever was the baby face. And I just wonder how far things would have went if I'd have got to be that heel. But nevertheless, things are as they are. And I really enjoyed wrestling the Currys. Me and a guy who you had on the program, Jerry Jaffe, Dr. Jerry Graham Jr.,
yep,
would team up against them after Dr. Jerry Graham just left or something happened. But me and him teamed a few times, and me and a guy called J.W. Hawk would wrestle Wild Bull, Flying Fred Curry, and it was always pandemonium, chaos. There was always people standing, and there's something that you really don't see, even with all the backflips and all the stuff. How often do you see people standing in the audience?
Nope.
When you have the ability to bring the people to stand, then you've really done something. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything.
And I mean, you can look at. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say everything today seems. I don't know. They worry about the performance and not the emotion. And I don't know. I always watched wrestling for the emotion. That's what hooked me. That's what brought me back every week.
When you don't have that emotional connection, there's little value there.
Yeah, that's right.
It's almost over the difference of a one-night stand and the opposite of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
There's no emotion, so it means very little.
Yep.
And everything, and that's the thing that's missing in wrestling today is the emotional connection.
Yep.
Where the people would be willing to stand to see what's going on. And you watch all those old tapes on YouTube and stuff with Dick the Bruiser and all these guys. Granted, they didn't do a 450 splash or they didn't do a 619. But, brother, I'm telling you, the people standing in the audience.
Yep.
Standing. And that wasn't because the ring music had played. And I'm not crying sour grapes or bitter. But it's like you said, the emotion's lacking, and we switched to that gear real quick. But the Currys had it.
Yep.
The teams like that, I mean, my goodness, they just a magic about them that had that thing. And Flying Fred and Wild Bull Curry had that for sure. Yeah, I'm just glad to have been a part of it.
Yeah, when you started teaming with Tommy Rogers, what went through your head? Were you at all resistant? I mean, did you ever have that urge, man, I'd like to do it on my own, or did you think, this is a great opportunity?
No, listen. Here's the situation. Me and Terry Taylor, for about a 6 weeks period, we did it.
Yep.
In wrestling, I always was taught you do what you're told.
Right. And
when I was wrestling in San Antonio, and a guy who's another mentor is like a father to me, Superstar Bill Dundee called me and said, Bobby, we need you guys to come to Louisiana, and we're going to get Tommy Rogers to come and do the Fantastics. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I didn't even think about it. I just said, okay. We went to be a 90-day replacement team. Mm-hmm. Just 90 days. We had nothing planned after 90 days. And the rest is history. After 90 days, Bill Watts and them came to us and said, where do you guys want to go? Eddie Graham wants you guys in Florida. Fritz Von Erich wants you guys. Ken Mantell wants you guys in Dallas. Where do you want to go? And I said, Tommy, I know you're from St. Pete, but Dallas is the closest move. Mm-hmm. And when we went to Dallas, we went down and wrestled a couple of shots for Eddie Graham, who was a nice guy. And we did that to help him out. And we went to Dallas, and we got over tremendously there. And, I mean, in a big, 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 big way. So to be just a fluke 90-day replacement team and to left in such a short time, the mark we left in wrestling, it goes to tell you that we had the passion to get in the ring, to work hard, to give the people more than their money's worth. And the thing that I like about Tommy and I, as a fan's aspect, that we just didn't have good matches with just a certain team.
Right.
But we could go with any type of team, with the Sheep Herders, of course, or any of them. Jack Victory, John Tatum, Sting, and Eddie Gilbert. Both sets of the Midnight Express, all these different teams, and have great matches, not just good, and I'm not just saying it because I'm talking to you, but great matches that the people go, my goodness, after they've seen it. And Arn Anderson paid us a tremendous compliment. We were working for the NWA, and he, of course, him and Tully was wrestling somebody, I can't remember. He said, brother, when we got to follow you guys, man, you guys never give us a night off. We have to really bust our butts in the ring to follow the match.
Yeah.
And you see, but today, nobody understands when you say follow that match.
Yeah.
The people in it today don't even understand about the timing. And I hear a lot of people talk about psychology, but they don't talk about the timing. And they talk about telling a story, which they don't do. But they don't understand the match to have. Like the other night, I'd rented my ring at a show in Harrison, Ohio. Mm-hmm. After about 4 or 5 matches, the people started talking among themselves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said, the thing of it is, you got to learn where you're at on the card. Almost like The Rock said, know your role.
Yeah.
If you're the first match, you go out there and you warm the people up. You don't try to steal the show or anything like that.
Right.
And then it proceeds on just like a fireworks show, as the show is, and your match should be. But with that being said, going back to Tommy Rogers and I, what a tremendous tag team. What a tremendous athlete Tommy Rogers was. And, I mean, he was really, really good. He stayed in the gym. He worked hard, and he was, together. Him and I, smaller guys, blessed each other with a career that went farther than what we probably would have thought we would have went. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And around that time, there was this whole, I don't know, like a new wave of tag team wrestling with, you and the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and a lot of innovation and kind of stepping up. Did you and Tommy, when you got this opportunity, did you say that? Did you say, hey, we're giving this chance. Let's see what we can do. Let's show them something they've never seen before and show them what we've got.
Look here. It was like this here. We worked hard every night. And Tommy later on said this, and he paid me a compliment. He said, Bobby, you would come up with this stuff. And I said, yes. And he said, and I would say, yes, we can do it. And this and that. And we worked together as a team. We never thought of ourselves as two single wrestlers.
Right.
See, that's the problem today with a lot of guys. It'd be like Dave and Bobby's going to be a team. Well, Dave says, man, I'm worrying about me. Yeah. Bobby says, I'm worrying about me. Yeah. I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to take care of me. It's just like the other night I was watching a tag match, and the guy gave a guy an ice-cold tag. I say an ice-cold tag. Have you ever heard that expression?
No, not really.
He gave him an ice-cold tag. There's something for everybody out here listening to learn and read into and study, but it was an ice-cold tag.
Yeah.
You see, the whole match is very intricate, And when you hand a guy an ice cold tag, it's not good. It's not good for the team. And they were supposed to be a tag team together, but they wasn't smart enough. And these guys have been in the business 10 to 15 years, and one of them has a training school.
Uh-huh.
And I said, why would he give his partner such an ice cold tag like that? He probably don't even understand that he did that. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But you never give your partner an ice cold tag. But Tommy Rogers and I, there wasn't nothing he couldn't do in the ring. And we got a chance to go to Japan and have some great matches with guys and Malenkos and the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy and all kinds of people. We wrestled Stan Hansen and Danny Spivey. I mean, and Dr. Death and all those guys. Steve Williams. Of course, we had great matches with Dr. Death and Ted DiBiase there in Mid-South Wrestling. And I mean, you really, if you think about it, Dave, I was truly blessed to get an opportunity to get in there and wrestle with some of the greatest of the 80s.
Yeah.
80s and the into the 90s, tag teams. And like you said, it seemed like tag teams were featured more prominently back then, and they've seemed to lost their luster now, but it shouldn't be, because it should still be a big part of the program.
Absolutely.
You know, the wrestling show.
Yeah, some of your classic matches, like you had with the Midnights, so I won't point out specific, but when you're in the midst of one of these, can you feel that it's like, man, this is special. We're clicking tonight, and this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What does that feel like when you're? I mean, I know as a fan what it feels like. It's amazing, but
brother, I'm going to tell you this. And this is the best way I can explain it. Have you ever played baseball?
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever hit the ball with a wooden bat and hit it, and it just felt right, and it just went over the fence?
Yep. It got that sound. Even off the bat, you can hear it.
It's got that sound.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
And that same feeling, it's the same way with that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I've been in matches before where guys have killed it dead.
Mm-hmm.
Where I heard the Sheik and Sabu in Japan, and I can hear the Sheik yelling at Sabu, "Get up, get up, get up! You're going to lose them." You see, you can lose the people.
Yeah.
And once you lose the people, you can't get them back.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing of not doing, is losing the people during the match. And I don't know if people's ever talked about that before. Have you heard people talking about that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel. I mean, again, I'm not the expert to be speaking, but I feel matches nowadays, I don't know if they're worked more for the camera instead of the people. It feels like
it is. It's all for the television. Listen, if Vince can get Fox TV or somebody give him $1 billion, everything's for the TV. But here's the problem we have. Here's the problem. Me and Ivan Koloff had a wrestling school in 90. And everybody came in. The only thing they wanted to learn was a clothesline. This was the era of the clotheslines. Everybody's throwing a clothesline. Everybody thought that's all you had to be a wrestler, throw a clothesline.
Yeah.
Well, now all these people are watching Monday Night Raw, and it lasts 3 hours, so they think their wrestling show should be 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
A good wrestling show is 1.5 hours to 2 hours.
Yep.
Action-packed. And let the people wanting more.
Yep.
Not where they're falling asleep and you look out there after 2.5 hours and half the crowd's gone.
Yep.
That don't make for a good show.
Yep, I agree.
But Vince's product is strictly a television product.
Yep.
Strictly. Mm-hmm. Nothing more. Now, I've been told, I haven't been to any of their shows, but when you go to a house show where there's no red lights, they work a whole different style, which is fine.
Yep.
But that Raw and the other program they have is just made for TV. They shake the cameras because I guess the stuff don't look good enough if they just had it straight on.
Yeah.
But they got to shake the cameras when they hit somebody. You've seen it before.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't.
But it's strictly WWE. Look, you can't argue with Vince's success.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot argue with it. But it's strictly a television product.
Yep.
What you see, and it shouldn't be emulated by the independent promoters, so to speak, or any others.
Yep.
It's not made for a building.
Yep.
A live show.
Yeah. And I don't know. It kills me though. It's a television product, but I don't feel like it's I don't know. It's odd to me because watch old Memphis wrestling, and it was very episodic. That or Mid-South, and it would make you want to tune in next week because it would leave you hanging.
But listen to me. And I said this myself. There's no connection, and that's what's missing too. There's no connection with the guy on the TV box and you. Yep. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's no connection. They're not your team. They're not your man.
That's right.
There's no emotion, so you can take it or leave it.
Yep.
But before, with Superstar Bill Dundee, Jerry Lawler, Handsome Jimmy, I'm talking about Memphis now. You talk about Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Lance Russell Lance was never talking to get a good write-up in a kayfabe sheet after the product.
Yep.
They were selling that show.
Yep.
And when Lance Russell told people, this is the dirtiest wrestler that ever wrestled. Oh, come on, Bill, don't do it. They believed everything he said.
Yep.
So when you're listening to, I told my son, Dylan, I said, when I'm watching, when we got Raw on, it sounds like one of their games, the way those guys are talking.
Yep.
It sounds like one of their video games.
Yeah.
What they're saying is just filler.
Yep.
It means nothing. There's no connection. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
It's just air being filled.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to always love, guys like Lance Russell and Bill Watts doing commentary, or Gordon Soley. They would.
Jim Ross,
absolutely, yeah. They would.
Gordon Soley.
Yeah, anything, even if there was something off in the match or off in an angle where, as a viewer, you would think, oh, that doesn't make sense. They'd make it make sense for you.
That's right, brother.
And they cover the gaps. Yeah.
You know why? They had credibility. These guys that's doing the commentary, none of them, not one of them have any credibility.
Yeah.
The one guy they fired, I can't think of his name. Somebody slapped his face, and then they fired him, and he was within. He had it.
Yeah.
But they got rid of him.
Yeah.
And see, that's the way it is. If you're really good, other people with a higher position see you as a threat.
Yeah.
They eliminate you. You see what I'm saying? Do you know who I'm talking about? That guy that was on there for a while.
Yeah, I remember the story. I don't remember the name either. I don't follow the product close enough. Yeah. Just believe you me. I don't watch it religiously either. Yeah.
But he had it.
Yeah, right.
And he's gone.
Yep.
But these other guys don't. It's just filling air. And all Vince is doing is filling air so that he can get that $3 billion or $1 billion or whatever. At the end of the thing, he's just selling. Here's what I tell people at my shows. I'm not selling time. I'm selling action.
Right.
Vince is selling time.
Yep. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I think he's
selling time.
He's got to that point he always wanted to get where I think, his brand is what sells, and he doesn't, everything else is interchangeable to him.
But here's the thing. He could listen, and I think about this not every day, but every couple of days. Why couldn't he get somebody over? Get him over. And then really, boom, man. You talk about dominating.
Yep.
I know he already does, but wouldn't it be better? And better for him because you see, when everything shut down, he quit getting guys to come up. I know they're doing it with NXT and this and that and everything, but there's so many other guys that's out there that will never get the opportunity because they're just out there.
Yep.
And how much more if there would be like Ringling Brothers had an East and a West traveling things. You understand?
Yep.
They had. Why couldn't you have a East, Midwest, and West, and have 4 different companies broke up, but then and here's what you could do: is spotlight them on your national television product, the top guys.
Yeah.
Because the people, listen to me, then build up, have a guy beat a guy in a squash match. Because here's the deal. They're giving them the WrestleMania matches months before the WrestleMania on Raw.
Yeah.
But then why not take the guys from all over the country? Like if you have 4 different places or 6 different places, and then on that show bring them on Monday night and Tuesday night, and then you got your towns running and you're helping out local organizations. How much more can that be to build up your stock in your company?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And make your company more successful. They could easily do it. And then that way no one's old anymore.
Right.
It gets so bad. It gets so bad when you keep seeing the same matches and they say, hey, man, we got a WrestleMania. It's going to be him and him. And you think, man, I've seen the match 40 times.
Right, yeah.
And they're limited. Listen to me. Jerry the King Lawler could go to Memphis every Monday night. And all the wrestlers back then. Mm-hmm. They could go to a town 4 times a month and not give the people the exact same match.
That's right.
How many can say that today?
That's right. Yep.
Once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Yep.
So with that being said, I wish Vince McMahon would call me. I could give him some good ideas and this and that. And I think that's a great idea about having the different traveling tours.
Yeah.
And then you got the stuff overseas. And then you got not just let's say he's got a $10 million business or $1 billion business. Why not make that a $10 billion business?
Sure, yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why just leave it why just leave it where it's at?
Yeah.
And what's sad is the guys are great athletes, but there's no connection, no emotion with the people. It makes it a poor product.
Yep. I agree.
The people don't care if they watch it or not.
Yep. I feel like, wrestling certainly changed, but I don't feel like it's grown. It's just
no, not for good. Well, here's what I told somebody the other night. I said, imagine this. In the 1980s, early 80s, on Monday night there was wrestling in every state in the United States in a major arena.
Yep.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they had anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 people on Monday night. 50 states, right?
Yep.
Now, they don't have that anymore, but they have one television program that really don't have a big viewership nationwide.
Yeah.
So what's better off? Where was you better off at?
Yep, I agree.
You understand what I'm saying? Where were you better off at? With the 500,000, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Sure.
Maybe here's the problem too. Maybe I don't understand it enough, and they're on a different wavelength. But you said the right thing. Vince is right where he wants to be.
Yeah.
It's not Stone Cold and The Rock coming to town, but the WWE.
Yep. And
that's all they have to say.
Yep, it is. I think they've become that brand, and it's. I think the product's hurt because of it, but I guess he's still getting rich or richer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He's getting richer.
Yeah.
Richer, and that's okay.
Yeah, I guess it's his thing. Not my thing, but I guess it's his thing.
Yeah, but the one thing about it is, brother, they can't take our memories away. And I'll tell you, it's not only wrestling. It's NASCAR's the same.
Yeah.
Basketball's the same. Baseball's the same.
Music.
All of it.
Yeah.
All
everything.
of it's the same.
Here
we are with computers and cell phones, and it's just not the quality.
Yep.
Of what we got quantity, but we left the quality behind.
Yep, that's true. I agree. Yeah.
And I asked people. I said, "Is there still geniuses being made today?" Yeah, there is. But I mean, it's just amazing that it seems like, well, what happened to everything? Everything I call it a plastic look or a plastic feel. It just isn't right. Yeah. And it's the wrestling, it's the NASCAR, that's the everything. Yep. They made it like that. And it's the emotion. But listen to me. Think about this, and it just crossed my mind, Dave. Mm-hmm. We live in an emotionless life.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to have emotions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to accept everything for just accept it. You can't express your opinion about it, or you will be taken to task.
Yeah.
You can't like or hate it. Just accept it. There's a lack of emotion in everything.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do, yeah, absolutely.
And that's just life in general. Life in general. I mean, people will crucify you if you state an opinion.
Yep, that's right.
That's why Jim Cornette is so popular with his cult.
Yeah.
Because he states his opinion, and he does it unapologetic, which I don't blame him.
Yep.
But he tells it like he feels. And you don't hear that anymore, and it shocks people. Where before we were opinionated and tell people what we thought and how we felt. But with this plastic society, with cell phones and computers, look here. I see people on the internet, and they'll go, well, who's Ricky Gibson? Never heard of him. What has he ever done? And I'll say, he's one of the greats that was in wrestling, a really young guy, or this or that, or anybody.
Yep.
They'll run their mouth about it. I'm going to tell you what, Dave, it makes me sick. It's almost where I'm getting to the point anymore. My mom and dad said, my dad said when he was 16 or 17, said, it's a phase he's going through. He'll go through it and it'll be done. Of course, I'm still going through that phase, but I feel that phase leaving me. You understand?
Yep.
Because of the stupidity of the people hiding behind a keyboard on the internet, stating stuff that's not true, trying to change the history of our business by just a few keystrokes, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And then people run their mouths. And one more thing, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon.
Okay.
About these guys that's flying over to Japan on their own dime and going for nothing.
Yeah.
And they had a big discussion about that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Why would it's supposed to be professional wrestling. Why would anyone do that? And then they don't understand how they cut everybody else's throat.
Yep.
Because then it sets a precedence, and you're expected to do the same thing.
Yep.
And it's just like wrestling shows and everything. The same thing, and it's just I'm not going to get off on a tangent, but it's just in a sad shape right now. And I said one of the greatest things that could ever happen to wrestling right now is if they had a moratorium that shut down all these wrestling schools. Because, Dave, can you imagine? Can you listen to me? Can you imagine? I wake up one morning and I said, man, I want to be a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I go down and pay somebody $25 a lesson, and he teaches me, not that I don't have one athletic bone in my body. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the dressing room next to Bobby Fulton after 4 lessons.
Yep.
I'm having my first match.
Yeah.
It makes me sick, brother.
Yeah.
It makes me sick, and these guys with these wrestling schools. I'm talking about all of them. Also with Rip and them. They got that wrestling school down there. They got very little places for them to go. They go down there for 10 lessons, and them guys think they're a freaking professional wrestler. And after 10 lessons, you're not a professional wrestler.
Yep, that's right.
That don't make you a wrestler. I love Rip Rogers and them and all that, but I've heard so many guys say, I went down to OVW and took 10 lessons, and now I'm getting ready. I've been wrestling now. I took my 10 lessons. I said, you're not a pro? He said, yeah, I'm getting ready to promote a wrestling show. I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah, really.
I mean, I understand that people's got to do it for a living. But and that's when the wrestling school started. When I started, they didn't have wrestling school.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But in the 80s, when the territory started shutting down, I think Larry Sharp might have had the first, like Nelson Royal was the trainer for the guys in the Mid-Atlantic for the Crockett's. You understand?
Yep. Uh-huh.
And each place had guys that would train guys.
Right. Yeah.
I think I just read the other day on the internet, Prince Pullins was the guy that trained guys for Dick the Bruiser.
Yep. I heard that too. I saw that too.
And Lou Klein trained the guys for Sheik. And,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but them guys knew what they were doing, but they wasn't breaking in hundreds of guys.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep. Wouldn't just take anybody that came in off the street.
No. They had to have some kind of qualification, and I mean, this and that and everything. But I remember Ronnie Garvin told me that when he broke in back in the 50s, I guess it might have been the 60s, the older guys sat in the dressing room and look over at him real mean. He said, "Who have you beat?
Yeah.
What have you done?"
Yeah.
But like I said, when a guy can pay $75 or $100 and become a professional wrestler, we have cheapened our wrestling business to no ends. And here's the thing: I look at wrestling. Jackie Fargo told me, he said, "Bobby, you can't kill our business, and you cannot kill it." And it's still people still love it. I'm amazed that people can go to one of them horrible shows where guys miss punches by 14 miles. They can't do nothing. You can hear them talking. You can it's like a bad magic show. And people will walk out of there still loving the wrestling business. The fans, kudos to them, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing. They're dedicated. They love our business.
Yep.
And I'm still a fan as far as that goes. But I just guess I'm mind boggled, Dave. I don't know. What say you?
I agree. Yeah, that's why I feel it's do what we can to try to direct them at whatever's left good out there and everything else.
Yeah, I hear you.
And see if we can help direct them. But yeah, there's a lot of fans out there that are just accept anything, won't they? If it's inside anything that looks like a wrestling ring, they'll take it, and I think it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny, but it is what it's become. And it's just morphed, I guess, is the word we could use.
Yep.
To something else different than what we knew. And it doesn't necessarily make it wrong.
Yep.
It doesn't make it right either.
Yep.
But it's just, it's sad when I talked to Lord James Blair, and he told me in 1949 in Ohio, for Al Half, he was making $1,400 a week. $1,400 a week wrestling in Ohio in 1949.
Yeah.
See, stuff like that could be doable again, but it can't with this mismatch of bad wrestling. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Of trash bag wrestling and garbage and trash.
Yep.
It just hurts it. And see, the people don't understand. They just see wrestling, and that's all they see.
Yep.
So the bad wrestling show could be, well, that's his show because it was wrestling, and it wasn't my show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And not to get off on that, let's just turn this around on an upbeat.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I just imagine the Sheik and them, and Dick the Bruiser and them, drawing all those big crowds in Indianapolis, in Detroit, and some of the other arenas throughout the territories that they had, and everywhere. It was amazing. And one guy you didn't mention, and he just shared this on Joe Stasi, who has a ICW page. They just shared in 1979 September. It was a Nick Gould's card, and there was Bob and Don Fulton on it against Dutch Mantel and somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, Ken Lucas. Well, they said, is that Bobby Fulton? And who's Don Fulton? Somebody asked on the Internet. And that was Eric Embry, of course. And Nick Gould's, when we got there, he said, you boys, I was Bobby Fulton. And Eric Embry was Don Starr, wrestling as Don Starr. He said, you boys, they like brother tag teams in Tennessee. He said, I'm gonna make you boys brothers. You're now Bob and you're now Bob and Don Fulton. You're the Fulton brothers. And brother, he said, we're gonna buy you guys some outfits where you'll look the same, right? Like brothers.
Yeah.
They said order them and it'll be fine. So we ordered them and they came in, and I'll never forget, Dave. We got our check and we owed Nick money.
Oh, yeah. Well, that one's going to be for free, huh?
No. But, I still got I don't know if I told you or not, but I still got a rice cooker that Tojo Yamamoto gave me in about 1984. I'm proud of that thing, and I cook my rice, and I think of Tojo. Yeah. Listen here, Dave, I've been blessed. Look, I'm a young boy. Well, I was a young boy at 16 or even younger growing up, watching the wrestling and dreaming of it. And I try to tell every kid in Chillicothe, if you have a dream, or I tell them worldwide, if you have a dream, you can achieve that dream. It's not your size, but it's the size of your dream inside.
Yep.
And if you're willing to go the extra step and the extra mile, and I'm not saying do the wrong things, but do the right things, you can succeed.
That's right.
No matter where you come from.
Yep.
Or what your name is.
Yep.
But if you work hard enough, you can live your dreams. I seen a picture of me and Tommy and Shimon Perez, and I forgot I met him. But I did remember that they told us that the guy that's equivalent to the President of the United States in Israel wanted to meet us, the Prime Minister. And I was probably about 24 years old or 25. And we went in there and met him and talked with him for a while and this and that. But I'm going to tell you this. If I could have told you in 1968 or 67 and 69 when I was watching big-time wrestling on television, and I seen Baron Fritz von Rosch in the ring with a Prussian sleeper hold, and he put asleep 10 guys in the ring, including one of them I'll never forget was Spaceman Frank Hickey. And there was guys laying all over the ring, and he refused to wake them up. And Mark Lewin, the other guy with the sleeper hold, was threatening to come in to wake him up. And Baron Fritz von Roschke, you see, he had a big red cape, and he wouldn't wake him up where you could see it. He would put the cape over top of them and then get in there and massage them and wake them up. Well, I'll never forget, I think it was something like this where Mark Lewin then finally tried to get in and wake one of them up. And of course, Baron von Roschke jumped on him and did all kinds of stuff. And, of course, they were going to have matches. But if you would have told me that I would have had a chance to wrestle in world-class wrestling, to wrestle in Texas Stadium, to wrestle in the Superdome in New Orleans, if you would have told me I would have had a chance to be in the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum. You see, I learned about these buildings and arenas by reading those magazines back then. I learned my geography from those wrestling magazines of the different territories and where they were.
That's right.
If you would have told me I would have one day met the guy who wrote the Patriot comic strips, Jerry the King Lawler, that I read about and seen the Patriot and Pedro Morales. If you would have told me that I would have got a chance to shake hands and meet Bruno Sammartino on different occasions, if you would have told me I would have got a chance to meet Johnny Weaver and Ole Anderson and wrestle against some of the greatest people in the world when I was 6 or 7 years old, I would have said, I don't think that could ever happen. If you would have told me that I would have been in Japan 17 times, Israel, Australia, got a chance to wrestle the world, wrestle Stan Hansen, wrestle, work for Nick Goulas, go down and be inside Scott Teal's program, the Slamogram, in which we used to get in the mail. If you would have told me I would have been involved in that, I would have said there's no way.
That's right.
But I thank God that I have been truly blessed and highly favored to get a chance to live a dream. And if you'd have told me I'd have been on my cell phone without a cord talking to Dave Dynasty on his great program in 2018, I would have never been able to fathom it all.
That's right,
but you see, it's like this, brother. We've had a chance to get a chance to live our dreams, to talk about the things. And, Dave, I want you to continue to do what you do.
Of course.
Keep our wrestling alive.
That's right.
Keep
Absolutely.
the memories alive, because that's one thing I watch on the Internet. I don't want them to change the history.
Yep, right.
I don't want them to change the stories.
That's right.
And it's easily to be changed, because I've seen things that's been written about me that's not true.
Yep.
And I think if that's not true, then what else are they changing? So we have to keep the history of our business alive. It is the foundation of professional wrestling. And, hey, just a quick note. They tell me that in NXT, when they show tag team wrestling, do you know what is the poster matches for that they show?
No, what is it?
At NXT, the Midnight Express versus the Fantastics.
Absolutely.
That are the matches that they want them young people to watch.
Yeah.
To learn and glean from. And to me, that's a tremendous honor. I mean that with all my heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
well, thank you, Bobby, for coming on and then opening the show with me and guest hosting and telling us stories. And it's been a pleasure and an honor. And it's
been mine.
Yeah, and we'll do it again sometime in the future. So.
Yes.
All right.
Tell Gary I said hello.
Absolutely.
And your other guests. And God bless you, brother. I'll do it again.
Stick around, fans. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will have that interview with Midwest Territorial Wrestling owner and all-around great guy, Gary Woronchak. So stick around. If you are looking for the best books, DVDs, and posters on classic wrestling nostalgia, then you want to visit crowbarpress.com. There are literally dozens of titles there, including biographies of the likes of Bruiser Brody, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and of course, Dick the Bruiser, as we've spoke about here on the Dave Dynasty Show. You want to visit crowbarpress.com for all of your classic wrestling nostalgia needs. Again, that is crowbarpress.com. Okay, we're back on the Dave Dynasty Show with a special guest, Mr. Gary Woronchak. Gary, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, some of our more casual fans might say, well, who is Gary? Why are we talking to Gary? Why is he on the show? And through the course of this interview, we're going to show you Gary's importance in Midwest pro wrestling. But first, Gary, let's start with a little background on you, okay? So where are you from, Gary?
I live in Dearborn, raised in Dearborn, born in Detroit.
Okay, well, tell us, as a child in the Detroit area, what were some of your first memories of wrestling as a fan and watching wrestling?
Well, my grandfather actually was a fan. He was from the old country. He was an immigrant from the Ukraine, and he came in through Canada, and he was fascinated in the 60s with this phenomenon on television, pro wrestling. And he used to get he used to really believe it was a shoot, and he would really get mad. He would get mad at the TV. He would stand up and he would curse the referee, and he would take his glasses off and say, "Look, use my glasses, you damn referee." and he and I was like 8, 9, 10 years old at the time, and had a great relationship with my grandfather. We lived with him while I was growing up, so it was with him that I started watching wrestling on TV, and it just drew me in.
Okay, so who were you a fan of? I'm assuming in the Detroit area in the 60s through the 70s, you were watching the Sheik. You were watching big-time wrestling primarily.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Exactly. Well, when my grandfather started watching it with me at his side, that was before the Sheik was really a big deal in Detroit.
Right.
That was more the Dick the Bruiser era.
Right.
He was particularly unhappy with Dick the Bruiser. But yes, but in Detroit, of course, the Sheik was king, and especially during the period that I was very active as a fan, the mid to late 60s into the mid to late 70s. It was an incredible time. Detroit was one of the best wrestling towns you could imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
And, all kinds of great memories from that.
Yeah. So as a child, how young were you when you thought, man, I'd like to have a part in this someday, in whatever capacity that I could see myself having a bigger role in this world of wrestling? Did that ever cross your mind, or?
Well, at first I was just trying to get in to see a show, and my dad really wasn't a fan. He really didn't feel like taking me down to Cobo, so I had to beg him. And finally, he took me down for my first live show, and it was in late August of 1969. It was the Sheik and Igor in a cage. It was the Hells Angels against the Kleins for the tag championship, and we sat way in the back on the floor, and it was I'll never forget. I'll never forget that the Hells Angels seemed bigger than life. They put up that cage, and I had been watching all of this on TV, begging my dad to take me for all this time. And once I saw my first live show, I was hooked for life. And once it gets in your blood, this wrestling stuff never lets you go.
That's right.
And I started hanging around a guy named Brad McFarland, also known as John McFarland, and now still involved as Handsome Johnny Bradford. We were in the same high school. And even back then, he was a great wrestling photographer, ringside photographer. And I would see his pictures in the magazines, like Photo of the Month. And I would notice that it was from Brad McFarland of Dearborn, Michigan. So I couldn't wait to meet this guy. So when I got into Edsel Ford High School in Dearborn, he was there already. And we struck up a great relationship that has lasted through all these years because of wrestling. He was a photographer, so he kind of taught me the ropes of photography. So I started going to Cobo with him, Cobo Arena with him every other week. They ran every other week, twice a month, and they packed the place back then.
Right.
And we would sit in the front row, and we would take pictures, and then we would go home and we would print the pictures in our own little dark rooms, and then we would take the pictures and try to sell them to fans behind the stands. And frankly, I didn't realize the kind of heat we would get with the Sheik and his people for doing that at the time.
Right.
But they weren't happy about that, but we got a bucket picture. It was cool.
Yeah.
But then somehow we just kind of, hung around and got known a little bit. And before you knew it, Brad was taking some pictures for the Body Press, and I was a writer also, and I wound up spending a lot of time as a newspaper editor later in life. So I started writing stories for the Body Press, and they would pay you $3 or $5 or something. I don't recall exactly, but that was my first taste of actually being involved as more than a fan, but actually being into the business a little bit.
Yeah.
Also around that time, Louis Klein, who was a huge star, and I don't know if everybody knows Louis Klein.
Oh, yeah.
Louis was a big star back in the 50s and 60s. And right here, a couple miles from my house in Allen Park, Michigan, he had a gym where he would train a lot of the guys, and people that would come in would the out-of-town guys would crash at his gym sometimes. And so I was hanging around there with Brad, and, we were providing them pictures, and they were letting us mess around on the mat. And people like Mickey Doyle were training there. And, Jim Lancaster. And then I think it was Louis Klein who was the Sheik's spot show guy in this area. He'd go and sell shows to the local junior highs and whatever. And I got a taste of that too. So as the years went by, I got more involved in that myself. Now, I kind of fell away from it for a few years, like in the late 70s into the early 80s. Never lost touch entirely.
Yeah.
But frankly, it was the WWF's resurgence nationally that kind of reawakened me to what was going on locally. So another guy who lived a couple of miles from me, Al Costello,
right, the Fabulous Kangaroos.
Yeah. He was also in the business of trying to sell spot shows, and I had a little talent with marketing and writing and such. So this was in the early to mid 80s. I got together with Al Costello, and I became his spot show guy. I would put together pamphlets and sell shows to schools and stuff. We would sell them a show, go on, and I got to know a lot of the guys around that time. And,
right.
That was involved kind of in the promotion. I did his program. I sold the show, so it was my first taste of actual promoting.
Right. Now, I want to talk more about that. Before, on a side note here, you said you started watching in the late 60s. Did you ever get to see Wild Bull Curry? Because I know he was in a little bit that late 60s time.
No, absolutely. Bull Curry was still a big star at Cobo in the late 60s and into the early 70s.
Okay.
He was and of course Fred was the top baby.
Oh
face
here.
Yeah. And in fact, I recently saw a picture online of Bull from Bull was an old guy even when he was working in Detroit when I was going, but but when he was young, like in the 30s and 40s, he looked so much like Fred. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. So both Currys were very big and very frequently on the shows at Cobo when I was there.
Yeah.
I don't remember him ever doing a move, but he would cover his ears and say, "Quiet, quiet, quiet." And it was so easy to get heat back then too. All you had to do was yell at the crowd, and they'd yell back. It was great.
Yeah, it's funny how you said that a young bull, Fred looked like a young bull. I'm not sure if you're familiar of Fred's youngest son, Nick, who's just starting to wrestle now. And if you see young pictures of Fred, Nick looks just like him. So it's like,
no kidding.
Wow. Some of those genes in the Curry family there. Just
yeah. Well, if Nick's got the talent that runs in the family, he'll be very successful. They both were very big.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's what you talked about there when you're doing the spot shows with Al Costello. Is it around this period maybe when you first met Chris Carter?
Yes. In fact, Chris Carter was trained by Al Costello.
Right. Okay. That's what I was getting at.
And then Chris and Mohammed Jihad and some others kind of worked with Al, but then they were breaking away. And I remember very distinctly the first time that I saw Chris. And Al had talked about Chris a couple of times, but Chris had by that point gone on to work with Jerry Graham Jr. In the WWA promotion, and they were doing some local TV in the Detroit area. But the first time I saw Chris Carter, who, by the way, turned out to be a dear friend and remains so to this day, one of my closest friends.
Yeah, we actually interviewed him just a few weeks ago, had him on the show. So,
yeah,
great guy.
Yeah, he is. The first time I saw him was we had I had sold a spot show at Bishop Gallagher High School in Harper Woods, and I guess these guys were just available. So Costello brought in Don Kent and Chris Carter to work a match. And, I had been used to seeing a lot of the Costello trainees in these matches and some of the older guys. But boy, when Carter and Kent got in that ring and started hitting it hard and big bumps and laying in the forearms and stuff, these guys were impressive. And then Carter and I, being around the same age, we talked a bit. Frankly, Chris recruited me kind of away from Al because they saw, well, you're selling all these shows. Why don't you sell some shows for us?
Yeah.
They had some stuff going with TV and stuff. So I broke away from Al Costello at that point, and I got involved with the WWA promotion that was mainly based in Toledo, but tried to have a bit of a run in Detroit back in the mid 80s, later 80s.
Yeah. I've always held, you mentioned Don Kent. I've always held Don Kent's one of the most underappreciated talents in wrestling. He's phenomenal. Everything I've seen about him. Yeah.
And you may have heard that he's one of the nicest guys ever. Too.
I have, yeah. Yeah, I've talked to Jerry Grimm Jr. a lot, and of course they were very close. And that's what he says all the time. So when you were working for Bedlam, Bruiser Bedlam, and Jerry and Chris, when in this process, when Chris wooed you away, when did you meet Jerry again at that time? He's always the reason I ask is I talked to him. Actually, we do a monthly show, me and Jerry, and we did an episode just on Bruiser Bedlam starting, and he said you were a very key proponent in helping in those early days.
That.
Yeah, and I believe it had a lot to do, probably, I'm assuming, with your newspaper connections. So tell us a lot of that early Bruiser Bedlam with you and Jerry and Chris, and how you helped kind of assist with them really getting this rolling.
Well, they were running at the Premier Center, running shows at the Premier Center in Sterling Heights, I believe, and they were looking for other venues. And there was an arena in Dearborn where I'm based, and where I was the newspaper editor at the time. That I helped them book that building, the Adre Arena, and they ran a couple of shows there that were during the period when they were involved with JJ and the Bruiser, the radio stars.
Right.
They were bringing them into it. And in fact, I'm in my office looking at pictures on the wall right now that I still have up from that, because something very key about that was, well, first of all, that was my first bump was when I was the ring announcer. By the way, I did a lot of on-camera stuff too. I was the ring announcer. I wound up being the vice president in charge of promotions. I was the guy who would come in and threaten to suspend this guy or that guy. And, but anyhow, as I was being called into the ring, as they were like, this was a melee going on in the ring. Jerry laid a forearm to my back and knocked the wind out of me and set me on. And if you look at the tape now, the tape's out there somewhere. There are like 20 guys in the ring at once, all trying not to step on me.
Yeah.
As they're walking around. But that was pretty exciting with the radio guy and actual Dick the Bruiser, by the way, was helping to do commentary at that time.
Right.
He would come off the table sometimes, and he would come in and get involved in the matches. But this was also the site of the first matches of Scott Steiner when he was
absolutely
breaking in under his closer to his real name, Scott Rex Steiner.
Right.
And they brought him in, and they put him over the Great Wojo to win the championship right in Dearborn there, one of his first shows. So to try to kind of pop the interest.
Yeah. So what was your take on a young Scott Steiner at that time?
Well, in fact, he's in one of these pictures that I have up here on my wall, and he wasn't the Papa Pump that he wound up to be, but he was well developed. He was a very talented athlete. Of course, he and his brother Rob were both amateur wrestlers,
right?
And had some great athleticism too. So they really added a lot of credibility and believability to the promotion.
Yeah, and a lot of people I've talked to, like Chris and Jerry and different guys, when they talk about Scott Young, they say it's almost like a different person than what he is. The stories you hear now, that he was a little more almost humble, a little more I don't know, not so much over the top. I don't know if the years in the business and his success really kind of pushed him or what, but they, obviously being young,
right,
stuff that he was kind of a different guy almost.
Sure,
so,
yeah, he was way different back then because he was just starting off.
Yeah,
he was happy to do whatever that they were doing with him, and he was actually a little shy, even as I remember. Back then, so.
Yeah, certainly not anymore.
Yeah, right. But then we kind of faded out of the Detroit area, but I kept working with the WWA Bruiser Bedlam down in Toledo, where they were running pretty strong. They had a great sponsor. The local beer distributor was helping to underwrite the TV, and I thought it was some pretty good good TV. I mean, and fairly well local talent. Not a lot of guys from all over the place, but people who had real credibility. El Bracero, Calypso Jim, of course, Carter, Wojo, Graham, and just so many that that could, and it was pretty well booked too. To tell you the truth, they had some pretty good angles, and they drew some decent crowds. Mainly at the Hotel Sofitel in Toledo.
Yeah,
and as I said, I was involved with them doing some of the TV commentary. I had the great pleasure of working next to Terry Sullivan on the microphone, and I got to do a lot of ring announcing and a classic line that Carter and I will joke about from time to time is one time in a TV taping, I kind of like jumped out of the ring after I had done the announcing, and I just caught my foot the wrong way. And it turns out that I fractured my foot. I didn't know it at the time. Later on, Carter told Graham that Woronchak broke his foot jumping out of the ring. And Graham said, "Well, we don't pay extra for that."
Yeah. So I put a lot of the Bedlam episodes out there on YouTube, and it got a lot out there. And the one thing I always hear back is, everybody, there's always this story of, these were the end days of WWA, and at the end, and how it just, it was so horrible. But then when they watch this stuff, they're like, you know what, this is actually pretty good wrestling.
Look, Doc Graham has always been one of the best talkers that I've ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he could certainly get an angle over.
Still is.
Yes, absolutely. Jerry's just got a natural talent.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was a big part of other than being the brains of the outfit, he also was a very big part in the talent that helped draw crowds there. So that was, you mentioned yourself, Don Kent. I mean, they're a very solid worker. These were not jabronis that were just out of some wrestling school. These are people that had some skill and talent and knowledge, and they've been around. So it was a good promotion.
Yep. So
I have a lot of good memories about that.
Yeah. So Bedlam ended in the late 80s. How long went before you dove in with Midwest Territorial Wrestling? Were there a few years in there?
Yeah, there were. And during that time, that was a time when the NWA started running in Detroit. And this was, I think, I'm going to say 88, 89 or something. And Brad McFarland was involved a little bit because he was such a great photographer. They were always asking him to take pictures. So through Brad, I got to meet a guy named Gary Juster. Gary was the building guy, the promoter for NWA, and then it was just in that period evolving into WCW. So I got to do a lot with them, and so I got the opportunity to work with a national promotion, and in fact, for a period, there are a couple of great things that happened with that. One was that as a ring announcer, I was like mediocre at very best. But one time Gary Capetta, the regular announcer, couldn't make it to a show in Kansas City, and Gary Juster called me that morning and said it was on a Thursday. He said, "Could you get off work today and come to Kansas City and do the ring announcing for our show tonight?" And it was like, wow, what a thrill! And yeah, absolutely. They had a ticket waiting for me, and for just a local ham and egger like myself, that was a big thrill. But the greatest thing that happened in that relationship that I still, by the way, another relationship that I still maintain with Gary Juster, who is now the one of the promoters for Ring of Honor,
right?
Is that as promoter for WCW, they were using a system where they had local promoters in each market, and he picked me to be his local promoter. So I was actually the local promoter for WCW for a couple of years, and that's when we weren't drawing great crowds, but having some great shows. Sting, Luger, Big Van Vader, of course Flair. Just really good shows that had really crappy crowds back then. It just was a real lull. But I really enjoyed the promotional aspects of it then, and it was after that, or actually that was still kind of around, but it was kind of on the wane. I figured I wanted to try something myself, do my own thing. So, with Chris Carter, one of my best friends, we decided that he had experience in helping in the office with WWA, and we decided that we would start a local promotion and take a shot. And that was, I think our first show was in January of, I'm looking at the ticket here, January 8th, 1994 at the Sheridan Community Center in Taylor, Michigan. We started Midwest Territorial Wrestling. And although we only ran for 2 years because I couldn't afford to lose any more money, it remains one of the highlights of my life. But also, I'm thrilled that there are a lot of the guys now who are working that will say that's where they first saw wrestling live,
right?
Wrestling in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good roster of talent.
You did, yeah.
We our shows, and this was also, by the way, during a very interesting time in the business. It was within 10 years after WWF had gone national with gangbuster success, and WCW trying to mimic that success, and of course Vern Gagne was running AWA, also with some TV exposure. But this was a time when hardcore and independent wrestling was becoming it was becoming more prominent. It was ECW was actually just starting up. That was around the time that Jim Cornette, who I also had the pleasure of working with, Jim Cornette started Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Yeah.
So at that time, Midwest Territorial Wrestling in the Detroit area was our version of all of that, and certainly not with the same impact that they had with television like ECW and Smoky Mountain had. But we brought in a lot of outside talent. It wasn't by any means just local guys. I mean, we also had the good fortune of having some outstanding talent that was based right here, including Al Snow, based nearby in Ohio.
Yep.
Sabu, of course, was still kind of a local guy, although he was getting to be a huge star at that time too.
Yep.
So we took Johnny Canine and turned him into Bruiser Bedlam.
Right.
The people we brought in, I probably couldn't do justice to running through the roster of names that I brought in. But from Terry Funk, we had Terry Funk against Sabu in one of our first 3 months into our operation. We had Terry Funk and Sabu on top. The Road Warriors, Road Warrior Hawk was on the market at that time. He came in. I called up Jimmy Cornette, who I had met, got acquainted with when I was the local guy for WCW, and he agreed to bring some of his guys up to work for Midwest Territorial Wrestling.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because I looked at I've worked at some of your shows and I was familiar with Midwest Territorial Wrestling, right? I knew of it for years, and then I was looking at some results prepping for this here a while back, and I saw a couple of Smoky Mountain tag title changes on Midwest Territorial shows with the Heavenly Bodies and Rock and Roll Express, and I thought, well, how did this working relationship come to be with Midwest Territorial Wrestling and Smoky Mountain?
Oh, also, this was around the time that Smokey was trying to run TV in some other markets. So we had arranged for Smokey to be on. I think Smokey was on Channel 20 or something like that here. So we were doing local. Our plan was to do local commercial breaks that would be rolled into the Smokey show. So Cornette was open to that sort of experimentation with locals. But I asked Jim about who can come up, and he said, well, we can bring up the Heavenly Bodies, who were his tag champs at the time, and he was managing them, and Rock and Roll Express was available. And I said, well, we're gonna bring you guys up, all you guys. Let's do 2 nights. So we booked a show in Port Huron the same weekend that we did our usual show in Taylor. And I don't remember exactly how it went, but Jim and I were talking, and I said, why don't we change the belts on one night? Maybe he brought it up, maybe I did. And as I recall, the Rock and Rolls picked up the belts in Port Huron, and the next night dropped them right back to the to the champion heavenly bodies in Taylor. And I don't know that that's. I haven't looked lately online, but I don't know if that's actually listed anywhere as an official title change.
Yeah,
but,
I don't.
I mean, we tried to give the local crowds stuff that they weren't expecting, and nobody expected a title change from these out of town guys. So that was very cool.
So also in Midwest, kind of a key figure is Sam Farmer, who's all over the TV shows, of course, and we're going to talk to Sam at some point on the show. I've already discussed with him a little bit. So tell us, how did you come to meet Sam and start using him on your shows and everything?
Well, Sam, as I recall, didn't work for us, but he worked. He did his TV with us.
Okay.
So Sam was a pioneer in putting local wrestling on local cable. Remember, local cable TV was still only about 10, 15 years old at this time.
Yeah.
With local access channels, you could get programming on, and Sam obviously still has this wonderful heart for the business. And he was the TV guy, and he was very generous to us as far as giving us exposure on his show. And he came and he did some recording of our show. In fact, just the other day I was looking at your YouTube page, and there's some Sam Farmer MTW action right there on your page.
Yeah.
So, Sam, and I still see Sam every now and then. We're downtown, and I'm in downtown Detroit, so we bumped into each other a few times. So yeah, it was good memories of Sam as far as helping get the word out and being involved with local TV.
Yeah, it was kind of cool because he did like kind of a show where on one he would have matches, kind of like a standard, almost a standard type show, but then he'd have shows where it was like a talk show type deal where he'd have guests on and talk to them and show match clips and things, and it was pretty cool, the concept of it.
And as I said, especially for its time, Sam was kind of visionary about that. It was, all respect for that. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm scanning through some MTW results right now, and I'm looking at some of the names we had, and you look back and you see we had names like I told you, Funk and Road Warrior Hawk, and of course Sabu and Snow. But we had Marty Jannetty come in a couple of times. We had Bastion Booger at the time, who had several different roles with WWE and other federations. Going back to Jim Cornette coming in, it was during his visit to MTW that Jim Cornette saw Johnny Canine,
right,
and said, "Man, that guy is a real bruiser." And he's in fact invited him down to work for Smokey, and he made him into Bruiser Bedlam, and I believe that Bruiser had the Smoky Mountain title at some point.
Yeah,
so he and also although I think Al Snow was already going to work for ECW around that time, I think Jim Cornette became acquainted with Al when he was up here for his MTW stuff, and so Al wound up working down in Smoky too. Point of great pride is that Cornette put together what's known as the World Series of Wrestling, and I don't. You have to Google it to find it, but he put together a show that featured title matches from federations from all over the country, and I was proud that the Midwest Territorial Wrestling belt was defended on that show down in, I believe it was Nashville. So that was a great relationship with Jim, and it got us some good exposure. I mean, for a local promotion that ran a couple of years, we were pretty well known. We were covered pretty thoroughly in the newsletter. Back then the Wrestling Observer and the Pro Wrestling Torch were must reads back then, and it was before the internet made them online available. So you would actually get your hard copy in the mail, and we got some good coverage in those for the quality work that we were doing. So we had a good 2-year run.
Yeah, and you said you folded up because obviously it was it's hard to make money in the wrestling business, and especially when you're trying to run a quality show. So did you, when it was done, did you just, is that when you decided to shift gears and say, step away from the wrestling business and go more into public service? Was it that time, or?
Well, it all kind of happened that way. It wasn't like planned out that way. Oh, I'm looking here. We had the missing link, Dewey Robertson.
Right, yeah.
On one of our shows too. Doink, the original Doink the Clown. When I say Doink the Clown, I mean Matt Bourne. I don't mean some jabroni that put on a clown suit.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
and by the way, Rhino. Rhino had
Terry Richards.
He had his third match of his career was on one of my shows. So, and we're good friends to this day too. He runs an occasional charity show, and he'll throw me in there as the unofficial commissioner for the day. So, so these relationships lasted far longer than the promotion did. From there, I closed up for a couple of reasons. One was that I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and we tried to put on shows, and we tried to pay people what we said we'd pay them. And back then, it may not seem like a lot of money now, but if it was $750 to bring in a top name plus trans, if you're only drawing 200, 300, 400 people, you're not the books aren't balancing. But also around that time, this is around the time when it became more vogue to take the matches outside of the rings and run through the stands and brawl throughout the arena, which a lot of the fans loved. But I always worried about people getting hurt and protecting like the little kids and stuff that were there. So I just thought that it would, between the money and some of the pressures involved in promoting, it was just time to fold it up, and with great pride, and job well done and all that. But of course, I never ever lost having the business in my blood, and you never do. I've kept in touch some. Haven't been as involved. I guess in the last few years, I've been helping Rhino a bit when you do charity shows, as I said. But now, I'll see a guy like Nate Matson, who's just an incredible talent, and he'll post a picture of a Polaroid that he took with Bastion Booger, back at one of my shows, and that makes me feel real good.
Yeah. So is that listening to you talk about it? That seems to me like, I don't know, like what you're probably most proud of your time and your time promoting is, I don't know, maybe that impact you had on these guys and that next generation of workers and talent there, that to know like a guy like Nate Matson, that it could have been at one of your shows that, he decided, hey, I want to do this. And
yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I do feel like I've got a little place, maybe a quiet little lesser known place in Detroit wrestling history, and spanning a long time. As I pointed out, it was, late 60s when I first started attending shows and got involved with the inside aspects, fairly quickly. So, I spent a good 25 years actually involved in different aspects of the business. So, and the fact that I can still go online and I can go to your page and I can see some matches that we've done, and I have some VHS that I want to transfer over to digital at some point. We did also new to the business back then was a three-way match, and we did a three-way match called Triple Jeopardy with Bruiser Bedlam and Al Snow and Marty Jannetty for the title. And again, we like to keep the fans, a little surprised. And when you have a guy like Jannetty came in for a 2-month stand. He came in 1 month and he wound up winning the title. So then we bring him back in this three-way match. The notion was that, well, of course he'll lose the title now because he's not going to stick around here. Well, he successfully defended the title. And then he did drop the title back to Al at World Series of Wrestling. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I enjoy most on the show is is bringing attention to a guy like you who really did have a great career and great involvement in wrestling. And also, I mean, just because of the nature of the business that, there's a lot of guys that people don't know. I mean, even, the photographers, the fanzine people in the 80s and 70s,
Sure.
and stuff, that these guys were very, very key and very important in the business. And you don't just, you didn't see them in the ring all the time, or you didn't see them on TV. So a lot of people were unaware. So yeah, I like bringing a little attention to those kind of guys and showing, and it's neat to hear all your different sides and facets of your involvement in the decades you were involved. So,
yeah, it was, nothing but good memories. And, I'm sure that I'm going to think of a dozen more stories when we get done with this, but,
that's okay.
But, I'm still thinking back to some of the people we had that have gone on to think there was a guy named JT Lightning. Rest in peace. He was, we had some guys come in from Ohio, and they went on to be very successful promoting, back in their area. And oh my God, how could I possibly not mention Scott D'Amore?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Scott D'Amore, I hope you won't mind me saying he was just a kid at the time, very talented, and he and Otis Apollo and Bobby Clancy, and of course, as you know, Scott now is one of the most highly respected people in the business right now.
Very prominent in Impact Wrestling right now.
Absolutely. So a lot of these guys, either got their start or passed through Midwest Territorial Wrestling as we were going through a very, very important time in wrestling. It was a time, the business, and you talked about these people involved in different aspects. Let's remember, too, that there were times when the business was almost dead. And you still had people who had it in their hearts that to keep it going. And there's that connectivity, between the time, when the Sheik was on fire, and then the Sheik's promotions just fizzled away. And there was a period there where things could have gone very differently. But then, WWF came in and then gave rise to the spot show promotions like Al Costello's, Coach Kurt, Ricky Cortez, who was a star in the 60s and early 70s. He was still promoting spot shows in the 80s, keeping it going. And even when I mentioned the period with WCW, where we were having, I think we have the record for the smallest crowd ever for any event at the Silverdome for one particular show that we did there. But we kept it going, and they're keeping it going today. A.T. Huck, still a dear friend, did some refereeing for me back in Midwest Territorial Wrestling. We talk frequently about the great work he did as a promoter, and he's still involved. He's still refereeing. He's one of the top guys as far as referees go in the business right now.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. When you talk about the history of wrestling, people will talk about Florida or the Carolinas or Georgia or Texas, and I don't think people talk enough about the Midwest and Detroit and Indianapolis and in Ohio and the talents and things that were here. And so that's why I try to bring a little exposure to it, the big parts over that and the little parts, because there is a very, very rich history out of the Midwest. And
you have to have experienced the Sheik's heyday to really appreciate how hot Detroit was as a wrestling town in the early 70s in particular, how the feeling of electricity in the arena. We're talking Cobo Arena filled to the rafters, not just a small crowd around the ringside, but I mean, this thing was packed. And when the Sheik would come out, remember, this was in a different era when people weren't as smart or didn't want to be as smart. And, and they booed the heels and they cheered the babies, and the Sheik just always got the most incredible heat.
Yeah.
It was obviously it was the same gimmick, every week. They bring in a new big baby face. He beat everybody along the way. He's got the hold that nobody can get out of, and then finally gets his match with the Sheik, and then of course the Sheik beat him.
Yeah.
But it always popped a good house. And then I say always because by the time you got into the mid 70s and later 70s, the formula wasn't working. The world was changing.
That's
People
right.
were getting smarter, and and a new era was around the corner. But I feel so blessed that I had the opportunity to actually have been there and to felt and experienced that. And what I really regret is that I'm not just a few years older, because if I was, I could have been going to those shows that I read about in the early 60s at Olympia with guys like Lou Thesz and Vern Gagne and Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder.
Yeah.
Just the most incredible lineups. Buddy Rogers that you would think. Detroit had it all.
Yep.
And I'm sure every territory probably to some degree has the same feeling. But I would find it hard to believe that there was any hotter period than. Now I know people down in Lawler territory would argue.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that I've experienced anything hotter. I mean, true heat. I don't mean like Hulk Hogan, crowd goes crazy cheering.
Yeah.
I mean, actual heat is when the Sheik was on top.
And
that's why he's still so remembered and respected to this day. And I know I've been going all over through the years here, but
that's okay.
Popping a lot of
That's fine. Well, you know what Jim Cornette always said? He grew up watching Memphis and in studio wrestling, and then when he finally was able to tune in and he got Indianapolis and he got the Detroit show out of Cincinnati, he saw that those were some of the arena shows out of Indianapolis and thought, well, this must be the big time wrestling. Well, Gary, we appreciate you coming on, talking with us, and Sharon.
It's been a great pleasure.
And like I said, if you spawn off a bunch more memories and it comes to you, well, we can just do a follow up down the road and we can revisit it all again and you can share more with us. So
happy to do it, Dave.
Absolutely.
Really great talking to you.
Whatever happened to you?
And we're back with Whatever Happened To, the segment where we catch up on some often overlooked names from Midwest Wrestling's past. I am Mike Isaacson. Today we're chatting with the Bravehearts, Jimmy Killkilia and Robert McFearsom. How are we doing today, guys?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm
What happened to
okay.
your voice? What do you do? What happened to his voice? You step on something?
What now? Say that again.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was-
Turn it down a little bit, will you, man?
Oh, is my recording
Let him
a little
hear
loud?
you. Let him hear you.
Can you hear me better?
Okay. Is that better? You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? I don't know who you're talking to. I'm good.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm good. I'm here. Well, you let the man do his job.
I think we're all good here.
I'm trying.
We're gonna jump right into it, guys. A great way to start an interview. Confused on who is talking, but
okay.
We'll go ahead and jump right.
I know I'm talking.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Jimmy. You're good.
Shut up, man.
He doesn't know. Guys. So, of course, as many people know, we are a wrestling podcast. If you didn't know that, you're listening to the wrong podcast. And we're joined with a couple of good fellas here. But tell us, guys, how did we both get started in wrestling?
Good fellas.
Good fellas.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and start, Jimmy.
Start Jimmy. How do you start Jimmy? Here we go. I come back from after being in the military, and I wanted to wrestle, and that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to do anything else, and my poor wife got stuck with that. So I was working in a factory, and I asked one of the guys if they knew how to, and it happened to be his cousin, his actual cousin, was Cousin Junior. And at the time, in the 90s, he was still kind of popular. He was Hillbilly Jim, hanging out down south. So I got a hold of him, and me and a guy I grew up with we drove down to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Every Friday night, we set up a ring in a church, and then we wrestled, and we tore it down because they had their morning meetings on Saturday, and this was down in, like I said, in Bowling Green, and you drove 4.5 hours. We set the ring up. We did our thing. We tore it down. Then we slept in our cars. And then the next day, after they had their little church meeting deal, we did the same thing. And then we drove 4.5 hours back. And that was the start of my career. learning how to do it the hard knocks and the happy way. We'll say happy way.
Right. Right. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with like school hard knocks, right? And what about you, Robert?
Yeah. Well, makes you better.
Right.
I started.
Your turn, Robert.
It's my turn.
Tell him.
Started out huge wrestling fan from back in the Dick the Bruiser days, man, and always wanted to do it. Was working in a factory in North Vernon, Indiana, and ended up. My uncle is a preacher down in Kentucky, and some guys down there were wanting to have a show there in his rec building, and he got a hold of me and said, "You still wanting to be a wrestler?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, of course." So he gave me their number, and I went down and actually met the same guy, Cousin Junior, and started training with, it was a small organization down there called Mountain Wrestling Association, the MWA, and Dale Mann ran it back then, and I trained with them for a while and started wrestling with them, and done a lot of shows down in Tennessee, Kentucky, some a little bit into Georgia, but it was really cool. I mean, I was having a blast. I was maybe making $5 a night starting out, but it was an experience, you know. And then I ended up meeting my first wife and moved back to Indiana after we got married, and got up with a guy named Roger Garvey out of North Vernon, Indiana, and he had a ring set up over there, and that's actually where I met Jim.
Flying douchebag, a Dutchman.
But
sorry, go ahead.
It was good, man. I mean, from the get go, we kind of hit it off, and
I was wrestling.
He's a brother to me now, so
he's being soft on me. It was our first wrestling match. I know, but I'm telling him, it was our first match ever. And when we were trained, he didn't break K at all. So we're in there smacking the crap out of these guys in this battle royale. And I hear him, "Get those green bastards out of here." And you remember? You remember that?
Yeah, and that was a task. That was a task. They didn't want to go easy.
And after that, I started going, well, this guy I'm with, he don't know crap. He won't learn. And he didn't. He still don't. But that's another story.
Right.
Months went by. I had gotten his phone number, and we had a ring, and we needed a place to set it up, and he's got some acreage down there. So I called him up, and we set the ring up down here. It's outside. So I'm going down to Madison now to practice with a ring that's outside. It rains kind of when we drive down there. We drive down. It didn't matter if it rained or not or whatever. We were outside practicing, and that's when I actually got to know Robert and got to know his family. Excuse me. And kind of
people they are.
yes. Yeah. So kind of backed off a little bit from the other guy because he kept getting us unbooked. Do you understand what I'm saying? He kept he was I was tight. I've always been tight with people, but I was never a crowbar, and I never hurt people, and he couldn't stop. So people liked the look and everything, they just didn't like the work. And he wound up being what I like to talk about nice about him. He's one of the best bumpers I've ever seen. But don't ask him to do anything else.
That he is. Yeah.
And, like I said, I grew up with the man. And I wish him well. I hope he's doing well, but I haven't talked to him in years because of falling out, and that has to do with wrestling also.
Right.
But that's another story.
Right.
Robert and I started wrestling as Heavy Construction. Do you remember them at all? Okay. Who's yelling at me? Hello?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Anybody there?
I heard some.
Yeah, I remember us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's when we were wrestling this Heavy Construction. I don't know if you remember them or not. It was Bulldozer Manson. That would have been him.
Right.
And I was Jimmy Jackhammer. We did that for a while, and we were okay.
Absolutely. And that's actually kind of one of the
Go ahead.
questions. No, it was actually one of the questions I was going to kind of sneak in there. Was, did you have?
Go ahead.
Yeah, because we always had, because we know you guys as the Bravehearts. That's what I know you guys as, or at least what I've learned about you guys. So then you said you were Heavy Construction before that.
Yes.
When did you guys first, I guess let's rewind a little bit. When did you guys first start tag teaming? And also, when did you first start becoming known as the Bravehearts?
Well, we tag teamed as Heavy Construction.
Right.
And it was all right. It was doing well. And there were some hard times that happened, and Robert took it out on me. But of course, it took it out on him because his daddy is just a great guy. He was all 5'2" of him, and he was just a beautiful man. And when he died, Robert there was in his kilt. And I sat there at the funeral watching everything go on, and I asked Robert, I said, hey, man, why don't we just change up and start wrestling for our heritage, for our families, and kind of put an honor on that. And that's kind of how the Bravehearts come around. I am Irish, and he is Scottish, and that's how it came to be.
Yeah.
And that's where we started. It was watching him in his family kilt at his dad's funeral, and I kind of like, hey man, this is what we need to do. I've got grandparents that talks and says squirrel and guttural, and couldn't understand him half the time when I was a kid, and asking my dad, what's wrong with him? So it was just like, it was a way to actually get back, kind of reboot ourselves, get us back to our roots, and it was fun. It was really fun because you throw the accents in there, and you could be.
It fit. It actually fit us in life. I mean, it was the sword that I used to carry to the ring was actually my father's two-handed Scottish claymore, and that was why I carried it to the ring. It was remembrance of him. Because, our parents were our biggest fans, of course, but Dad really loved it. I mean, he was my number one fan by far, and it was just kind of a tribute to him to carry his sword. And I also used to, when my hair was long, I used to carry a piece of his kilt that I snipped off, and I would have it braided in my hair. I would take it out before we would actually start wrestling, but I would always wear it to the ring.
Well, absolutely. Well, that's actually, you have a lot of people who just come up with the names randomly, or, they come with their tag team names randomly. But, like you guys said, this fits you guys in real life, and it actually meant something to be the Bravehearts. So do you think that perhaps helped kind of portray those characters, having that based out of real life?
It's like you said, it was just so easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything just came natural.
Let me tell you something. He's born a day after me. He's born on the 22nd. I was born on the 21st. There's 2 years between us. And that was it. But we're both. They broke. We're so much yin and yang. It's weird. It's I have a brother, but now I got a brother, and I've had a brother for years. I have one that understands me. You know what I mean? I don't have to say nothing to him. In the ring, we could look at each other and just, this is what's going to happen, and this is what we did. And it was never, ever. I was trained, not 30. You don't talk everything out. You didn't. It was body language, and it was what the crowd wanted. If I'm going to get my Patuca handed to me for 30 minutes because that's what they're wanting, that's what happened.
Right.
And he knew that, and he understood that. And most of the time, if we were the bad guys, I was the one out there getting the, the head handed to me. He'd come in and save me. Then, especially, and then if we were the good guys, he'd run in and he would save me, and then he'd run out, and I'm doing all the bumping, all the selling everything. But that's just the way it was. We tried it backwards, and the crowd just wouldn't buy it. The little guy coming in and saving the big guy.
Right.
Yeah. And at the little guy, saying the little guy at 260, at 5'8", that's something. The little guy is 260.
Right. That's just one of those dynamics, right, of modern wrestling is the big guy makes a save, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just.
So I guess kind of along the same lines, we've talked a little bit about, sort of the history, if you will, of the Bravehearts, kind of, starting at, what you were before and what you were after. But you guys obviously wrestled for a little while. So where were some of the places that you guys like to work primarily? Some of your places that you used to frequent?
We like Chicago. Chicago was fun.
Yeah.
Always in Chicago.
Chicago was always fun.
This is from Indiana, wear kilts all over the place. You wear them to New York. You wear them to the East Coast. You wear them to West. Nobody says anything. It's a kilt. Man's in a kilt. You wear them in Indiana, you get made fun of. Oh, look at a guy in a dress. It's like, you uneducated bastard. You need to go to Boston. Go to Boston and say that. Put your scully cap. But it was I don't know. I'm really, because one of our last matches together, Foley matches, our little was against the Public Enemy, and it was in Chicago too. We had a whole thing lined up, and Rocco decides he's going to go ahead and kick the bucket, and kind of slowed that down. But your hometown, I guess. Like, I always loved going down to Madison. It wasn't a great crowd, a big crowd, The crowd was always into it. But I guess that Madison or Austin was, in Indiana, that was, we owned it. We couldn't do no wrong. We could go out there and chew bubble gum and spit it out, and that was the whole match, and we couldn't do any wrong.
Yeah, that
makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that I hear from a lot of people is your hometown's always a good fallback, right? Always a good place to kind of return to at the end of the day.
Yeah. It just makes you like I told you, we're old school as in old souls, and even as even back then it was just travel everywhere. You go to Louisiana. You go down to Florida, you do all that, and it's fine and dandy, and money's okay, but home's home.
Yeah, absolutely. Home is home. That is indeed a good. That's a phrase right there. Home is home.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Well, kind of along the same lines, talking about places where you used to work. Obviously, you can go anywhere in the world. You can work anywhere. But what really matters is who you're working, obviously. When you think back, what wrestlers did you guys enjoy working the most? Was there any other tag teams or even singles wrestlers that you guys really like working with?
There's a lot of good talent out there, but I have to say, we loved the Public Enemy. They were so giving. They were
great.
It was such rough looking matches. Johnny threw me down a flight of stairs and off balconies and stuff like that, but it was so easy. It was, you get up and of course, gravity's done pulled your head out of you, but you're standing up, and if you got a big knot or you got whatever, they took care of you. It wasn't, like, working some, I want to drop some names, but still some of the Rotten Boys just pounding on you. You got a busted head, and they're just pounding on that busted head. It's like, okay, I went from a half-inch, opening here to a 2-inch opening, and now I can't see.
Right.
Those guys, Insane Clown Posse, sticking Bubba with a pin there. Robert stuck him with a pin in the shoulder, and we're in Detroit, and he drops face. He turns to me, and we never did this. ever. Case, always our friend, still is. He stops, Stone Cold stops, looks at me, and he says, "They're shooting." Flat out, his voice, "They're shooting." Yeah. And we learned quick that, the whatever you call them, the juggernauts or juggulators or whatever they are, juggalos. They're supposed to be all friendly and all. Oh, we had to have an escort out of town. Had to have a police escort out of Detroit.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
It was not. And thank you, Pondo, for getting us into that crap.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's good money.
Yeah,
it's good money.
I have to.
I'm going to need it to
I
pay
have
for
to
the
agree
stitches.
with you. I have to agree with you on the best matches ever. I mean, as far as crowd response, as far as being smooth and taking care of each other, by far it was Public Enemy. Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, two of the greatest guys I think we've ever tag team against.
Mm-hmm. Hey, tell them about the old Steiner trying to dislocate your jaw. That was fun.
Yeah. I got a spot to go to WCW, and it was against Rick Steiner.
Okay.
And Steiner, actually, he's I'm 6'4". Steiner's quite a bit shorter than I am.
5'4".
Yeah, when he goes
to
to give
gremlin
me
for nothing.
The Steiner line, the short clothesline, he kind of jumps up as he does it, and when he does, his shoulder hits me in the jaw and rocks my head, dislocates my jaw. I mean, I saw stars, got tunnel vision.
I'm sitting there watching, going.
Taping. Yeah, this is a TV taping, and and the referee comes over, and I'm just, he's looking at me, of course he's counting, and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, I think my freaking jaws broke, and of course that's what it sounded like I was saying to me, but I guess coming out of my mouth, it sounded more like, "Hey, just get your jaws there." And he says, "What?" I'm like, I think my freaking jaw is broke. And he's like, "Man, we can end this right now," and I'm looking around, and I'm like, we're in front of 30,000 people, bro.
This is not going to happen.
I'm like, no. And he's like, "You sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so as soon as I stand up, and he gives us the sign to go at it again, bam, another short clothesline. But in the video of that, it's actually on YouTube. You can see when he sets me up. Rick's finishing move was he would set his opponent up on the top turnbuckle. He would stand on the middle turnbuckle and give you a belly-to-belly suplex. And as he sets me up there, you can see this. It looks like, how you stick your tongue over in the side of your jaw and push it out, but it's down low because it's actually my jaw sticking out on the side of my cheek because my jaw's dislocated. And
I'm laughing at you, not with you, man.
I know, brother. I already know. But it gives me the belly-to-belly suplex. And I hit the mat so hard that I bounced kind of across the ring. And when I hit, my jaw pops back into place, and I bust the crotch out of my tights. So as the camera swings around for Castro's high-performance move of the week, showing slow-mo replay, you see my underwear. So all my friends, this was like my second TV taping on WCW, and my friends are, my phone's blowing up when it airs, and they're like, "Dude, man, I just saw you wrestle Rick Steiner." And I'm like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Man, he kicked your ass." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, He's like, "I saw your underwear." All right, click.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. Yeah.
Right.
You talk about breaking my jaw. You talk about kicking my ass, but my underwear, we want to hear.
Yeah, I don't want to hear none of that. But that was back in, when Jesse Ventura was still commentating down there, him and Teddy Long. And, it was the first time I went to WCW, I was marking out. I mean, I'm in a dressing room with Ravishing Rick Rude and Arn Anderson, and Flying Brian Pillman, and Cactus Jack, and Ron Simmons, and here's all these guys that I idolized, while I was coming up in the business, and I was just like, yeah, hi.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling, that was the respect that we had for the guys that came before us. It was just always. And it was never try to show off in front of them. Try to be humble, and try to learn from them. And that's a lot of what doesn't happen today, as I understand it and see it. The younger kids are too busy doing 30 moves and not making sense and don't care about the crowd. And they're the ones that pay.
There's not much of a story in a match anymore. To me, the way I was taught old school, and a match was like reading a book. You had an intro, you had the stuff in the middle, you had a climax, and then you had your ending. And, back in the day, man, a climax could be a suplex, and
or a hair pull.
Hooking a guy's leg after you suplex him, and then, or, a guy coming off the top rope, you came off the top rope one time, maybe two at the most in a match, and now you got everybody flying everywhere doing, 30 different things, and, you don't even hardly see a hot tag anymore. It's just
no.
It's just kind of and I'm not saying any of that's bad. It's just that's where it's progressed to, and coming from an old school type of talent, it's just kind of chaotic to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the fans love it, of course, but you got you got some, you got your old school fans too that appreciate an old school style of match. Work a guy's leg the whole match. And
the finish with the leg. Finish with what you worked. Don't work 30 pieces of it. Go from his hip to his knuckle to his head. Like what sense is this making? And we should probably let him ask some questions now, since this is the way he called us.
Yeah, sorry about that. And one other thing I want to throw in though is you power bomb a guy. And that that was a finish. Guy's out. And
not the beginning. That's the first move.
Yeah,
sorry,
you got guys getting power bombed and they're jumping right back up, and you're like,
shit, where do you go from here? To hit you with a grenade? Oh, get the bazooka.
I was actually going to say, I mean, and one of the things I was, I always like asking people, especially who, wrestled before the current scene in wrestling, is, what they kind of think about it. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that, I think I'd have to kind of side with you guys that, wrestling's evolved a little bit. Maybe not so much for the better.
We call it DMO, but you call it whatever you like. Right. There's no problem with.
I wanted to, I loved the 80s wrestling, because that's what I grew up on watching. That was when I was really hardcore into it, Rowdy Piper and
Hacksaw Jim Duggan,
Hogan, and Sergeant Slaughter, and you go back now and you look at those matches, and people nowadays would probably think that's a boring match. But those matches told a story,
right?
And it's a lot different. But I love the old school style, and there's still actually some organizations, man, down Tennessee, down in parts of eastern Kentucky, that still wrestle that way, and they still teach that way,
right?
You still have some. There are some in Indiana that are good. You got New, and then you got Donnie Idol's little deal there out of Columbus. It's not bad. And I still like, for me, this is Jimmy speaking, the independent, even if you went out there and totally sucked, you went out there. It's not easy.
Oh, yeah.
Especially just starting to step out there. When I met Rob, when him and I got together, especially as the Bravehearts, brother, this is one of these guys handed us gold one day down in Florida and said, "You're the champions. Talk about it." Well, we had no idea. We'd never even wrestled down there yet. And this guy says, "You're the champions. We want an interview. We want to bring you in." Okay. So I start rolling this way, and he starts doing this Doug roll. Go ahead, Robert. Do your Doug roll. This is something like what I was
Hey,
watching.
Jimmy, who we're going to wrestle tonight, We're going to go out here and just sit in the phone. Who's got to sit in the voices, man?
Yes, and I've got my gold too, you see.
That's kind of like what we did in the interview because, and then we would stop and look at each other and be like, and
yeah, and we roll. We'd say, yeah.
Yeah, and they loved it. They were like, that was the best interview we've had.
And it was just him saying something. I didn't understand a damn word he said. Said, "All right, lad, that's what you're saying. I know, and we're going to do that tonight, And it was just fun. Right. And now I do like Ring of Honor. I do like watching Ring of Honor, even though I think they're a little skeptic sometimes about, holding them down a little bit. But for me, and this is a personal, but when ECW come along and they started doing the crazy crap and everybody started doing the crazy crap and promoters started bringing in untrained people, that's when it stopped being fun. That's when you got the backyarders that like a kid come up to me and give me, he said, "This is what I'm going to do. Give me 30 moves that he's going to do before we get out there." And I said, "Well, when you get done with that, meet me in the middle of the ring." And that's the way we were trained. But it started the downfall then. ECW didn't start off bad, but then when they started to get where they were strapping for money and was just bringing in talent that really wasn't talented, everybody thought they could do it. And that's kind of the role for me. Not the guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Go ahead. That came with a lot
of like the guy. Yes. And it's not that the guys in ECW were not talented. Raven and Sam and those guys, they paid their dues. They were there. I'm talking about in the later years when they started bringing in all these yayas in doing, all this crap and hardcore that made no sense. Right out of the bat, this guy is going to come into this guy with a barbed wire bat. What's the build-up for it? There is no build-up. We're just going to, they're going to bleed. That's the way it was. And I don't know. We started kind of backing out at that point. Plus, a few injuries. So go ahead, man. You called us, and we're taking up your time.
No, you're good.
And we're not letting you say nothing.
No, hey, that's absolutely okay. Yeah. I'd rather hear you guys talk to myself. But no.
Yeah. No, we'll go for days.
Right. Well, no, yeah. And, we've talked about a lot, actually, and I kind of want to tie back to one little piece. We talked a lot about, where you guys have been, who you guys have wrestled, what you think of wrestling now. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of curious, with tag teams, it's a group effort. You guys, you have a lot of work together.
Oh, yeah.
But did you guys ever have to work each other? Did you guys ever have to do one-on-one with each other?
Oh yeah.
We get.
E-Town, we get booked, and we get down there, and we got nobody our size. Nobody. They're tag team champions. I think they were the Black Falcons or the Blackhawks or something, and they're both about 6 foot, 110 pounds. And it's like, okay, well, we've done this before. We can make these guys look good. That's not a problem. That's the way we are. And they're like, no. We're going to have you guys work together. And we just look and smile, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. We're like, right okay. I know this guy can work.
I'm not getting hurt. Am I? Yeah. It was, man, that's happened a lot.
when a few times we've done that our fan base, was there, and they some of them were in awe, and some of them were like, what the heck is going on?
How can you do that? Like, you hear that? How can you do that?
Yeah.
You guys are partners. Yeah. What was it? Yeah. Who was the guy in Columbus? Jerry. Who was it? He ran in Columbus all the time, and he had us do that.
Wilson.
Yeah. And he had us do it a couple times, but he didn't run anything with it. Like, we're out here, and we're doing this, and we're going to kill each other for this. Let's make it mean something. No.
Yeah.
No, you're just going to go do this.
I give Jimmy a chair shot to the head, and his wife looks at my girlfriend and is like, what's going on?
Because we didn't say nothing to him.
No.
We didn't know. No. We're there to wrestle. They're tag champions, and their tag champions won't wrestle us.
Right.
Yeah, that's happened more than once. And then there were, Adrian down. Well, a couple times we get called in because their tag team champions won't drop their belts.
Okay.
And this is it's not a proud moment for us, but they're like, okay, we want you to go out there and teach them a lesson. Don't give them anything. Are you sure? This is tag champions. Yes, they got to be humbled because they won't drop. They won't let anybody lay across them. Okay, we won't give them a choice. And, you get paid well for that, but then you start getting a bad reputation in the area as being hard workers, as in, stiff and shooting, which is actually what, we got paid to do, but that was not what was taught around. Right. So, we only did a couple of that because it was, and we get bad reputations, and that's not what we're trying to do. Paid good, though.
Absolutely. And actually, kind of along the same lines, you guys have worked together, you've worked against each other. Did the band ever break up? Did you guys ever have like a minute where you're like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore? Was there any kind of situation where that ever occurred?
Yeah, there was. It kind of towards the end. I got my neck broke by like I said, Johnny had thrown me down the stairs. It was bleachers. And I'd gotten my head, I had rolled forward, I got my head stuck and pulled it out, but I pulled it out fast enough and it tweaked me. And then we got down to the bottom, and I'm standing up, and I'm dizzy. I got the dust bunnies. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see this frying pan hit me. And it was not, it looked like one of those real thin frying pans that they bring in. It's cast iron. And he didn't kill me with it. I mean, he could crack my skull, but he did it enough that it rang. I think he threw it at me, and it rang, and I wound up falling backwards and hitting the bleachers with the back of my head, and I broke my neck, cracked it, vertebrae across, and didn't know it. And afterwards, I didn't want to do it anymore, and it was one of those times where I couldn't get rid of the headaches, and we're getting booked, and I'm not showing up and not being right to him. It's like I'm calling off, and he's still representing us, and he's still out there doing this stuff. And then finally we had our little talk, and it's like, okay, if I can do it, then we'll go back. And I didn't go to the doctor at the time because I didn't want to get it checked out, actually, because I knew something was bad. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to give it up. I didn't want to stop. But come along later on, and I don't know where we were working. Was it? Yeah, it was over in Illinois because we had to go through the doctor check and all that crap. And this I think it was Rip and Rage or whatever. The big kid, just dislocated my shoulder and tore my AC. And so now, after having to have that tore up and put back together, I was done. So then at that time, that's when they did because they did the MRI for me. and found out that I had broke my neck and I had to have a plate put in and all that happy crap. So I just kind of started trying to manage him, but at the same time, my heart wasn't in it, and it's hard. I don't know. He knows exactly, but kept calling him up crying and saying, "Hey man, I can't do it," and breaks your heart. Talking to your brother, talking to your blood, talking to the man who has actually saved your ass, more than once, and to tell him that you can't do it anymore. That's a heartbreaker, man, and it's just rough. This part of life. Right. But believe it or not,
I had been working hurt for quite a while, and I had hurt my back. Yeah. Scaffolding match, and when I got choke slammed off the top of the scaffolding, there was 2 tables there stacked on top of each other. Instead of going through the tables, really much the only thing that went through the tables was like from my shoulder blades up, and small of my back hit the concrete. And it messed up my lower vertebrae, gave me degenerative disc disease. But I kept going, and I knew it was just a matter of time. And then when Jimmy got hurt, it was, he was like, man, I can't do it anymore. You go on. And I'm like, no, bro, we're a team, and, I could have went and done, and I did a few single matches, but it just wasn't the same, man. I didn't have my other half there, man. My other, my brother, is just, he was my sidekick from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it just, it wasn't the same. It wasn't fun anymore. It was, don't get me wrong. I still loved the crowds. I still loved the fans. There's so many times we wrestled just for the fans. We would show up to work, and I don't know what happened. Maybe the advertising didn't go well or whatever, and there'd be like 12, maybe 15 people there, and we would go out and give it our all, just like there was thousands of people there.
Right, they pay.
They came to see wrestling, and by golly, we showed it to them. We gave them what they came to see, and even, we met some of the fans after shows like that, that would want to get up in the ring, and of course, back then we had Polaroids, and we was just,
there wasn't all the cell
Polaroids
phones
with them. Yeah, that was before cell phones. But we would just give the pictures to them, and some of them would want, maybe the tape that we had around our wrist, and the kids were like, "Can I have that?"
Whatever, man.
Absolutely, bro. Will you sign it for me? Yes, we will.
Yep.
And that
we wound up giving more of our gimmicks away.
Oh yeah. We gave so much more of our stuff away than we ever sold. In the real of it, we're both tough guys, but we're big-hearted, man. And we both grew up being wrestling fans, so we knew what it meant to those kids and to those fans to actually get to talk with the wrestler, get your picture took with the wrestler, or they come over to buy pictures, we just like, nah, here, just take that,
We wrestled down in Mississippi one time. I'm sorry, man. That's just, you were talking, and
No, go ahead.
You know how it is when I think, I got to sort it out in the voice.
Yeah, sorry
speaking
about
Gaelic,
that.
and I don't know. Yeah. But in Mississippi, when we did a show, and it was outside of a trailer park, and you could tell that these people were poor, and we wound up losing our ass. We wound up giving just about everything we had away because the kids. And and
we were
then
counting up money between us so we'd have gas to get back home. like, dude, there's a White Castle. Let's get a 6-pack of White Castles, and we'll.
Man, you don't want an hour on the way home. Yeah. But that was it, man. That used to be the fun part. I mean, and I, to see, because we're just nobody, really. I mean, I'm Jimmy. He's Robert. That's who we are. And these kids look at us with awe in their eyes. Now, I love it when my daughters look at me like that. But that's my daughters. Have somebody else's kid look at you like you're somebody, then you know who you are. Yeah. It's something. It really is. And so that's it. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of loot coming back that day, but it was fun.
When we first started getting big as the Bravehearts, we were in a mall, and we had our kilts on, and we're walking around, and people were recognizing us, coming up and asking us for autographs and stuff, and then of course because some of our fans saw us and was asking for autographs, people that didn't even watch wrestling were coming over saying, "Can I have your autograph too? Can we get?"
Never knew who we were.
We're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "You a wrestling fan?" No, I never watched that stuff.
No, I don't know what that is.
Right on. Cheese.
Yeah. My favorite was the grandmas, though. The grandmothers who were, in their 70s, just big wrestling fans. And when they would tell us, and this was that we were throwbacks to the 50s and 60s and 70s wrestlers. That's like, all these other guys are like, "Oh, that's a compliment, brother. I'm taking that that's a compliment."
Yeah, they would come up to you. One of the favorite things I remember this lady telling both of us. She said, "You know why I like you guys?" And we was like, "No, why?"
No,
because you guys are real.
And it was just like
to us, that was just that was the bomb. That was everything. Somebody that had been watching from back in the Haystacks Calhoun era, watching us and saying, "Because you guys are real. You're not faking nothing." And that just kind of like, well, to me anyway, it kind of blew my head up for a minute. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's how I want to be remembered, right there. I don't want
that's the legacy we want.
Right.
Not high flyers, not we weren't technically sound.
Not too heavy to fly high.
Yeah, we were. I give you a suplex from everywhere. 3,000 suplexes, but whoop-de-doo, you guys are real. And when the fans come and high five us, just like we see them do on TV with LOD and all those guys, it was something. The one thing that I didn't do that I wish we had done was to write down where we wrestled, who we wrestled, and what we thought of the match. That's what I tell people I train. That's what I tell when I see guys, new guys. Yeah. I mean, we got some articles where we're in the newspaper and stuff, but that's not the same as writing down.
Yeah, we were in Indianapolis Monthly actually. Whenever we had the ring in my yard. Yeah.
Yeah, Dick Wolfie
Mike
did
Tyson
the interview
was on the cover. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, what else? What questions do you have? Don't let him talk of your time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. We're just kind of taking over.
That's okay. That's absolutely okay. That's what we like, And you guys told a really good. I mean, that's what we do. It's just a conversation. It's a story, and that's exactly what you're doing. But pardon me. I guess really, I mean, one of the only other questions I really have for you guys is, I mean, we've talked a lot about your past, about your career, but maybe something not a lot of your fans know is, like, what are you guys up to nowadays? What keeps the Bravehearts busy?
Well, I think for Robert, I don't want to speak for him, but he's got a lot of grandchildren. He's got a beautiful kids, and he's got some beautiful grandchildren. And some of them I haven't met yet, and that's my problem. I got to get down to Kentucky and meet them. But that's You go ahead and tell him because I'll let him know what we started doing the Highland Games. And with Bob having his, you know what I'm talking about? They just had him in Columbus.
The Scottish Games.
The Scottish Games. The guys with the cabers and the kilts and flipping the poles and throwing the rocks and such. Got into that because I could do that. I didn't have to take a bump. I didn't have to get hurt. If I got hurt, it was because of my fault on something I did. So I started doing that because you got to fill your weekends. You got to fill them. So we started hanging out and doing that and driving to down to Tennessee. And it was a lot like wrestling because of the guys and the camaraderie with the guys. And, you're paying to do it, which it's something that filled it. The Highland Games filled it. Now that I've gotten knee replacement and the shoulder and everything else compiled up, all I do is judge now for the Highland Games. But it's still the camaraderie. Did strongman for a while. Didn't do real well. Some of the stuff I did great, but having the plate in my neck, they do what they call a yoke carry, which is anywhere from 450, 900, 1,300 pounds that you need to put on your neck and carry like a yoke. And in competitions that they have those, I didn't do well because I couldn't cut them. I couldn't carry it on my neck. Can't do regular squats. So it was adaptation, trying to get used to stuff and keep myself busy. And the kids that I train for Highland Games and for strongman, I will take them so far. But then we have where I'm at here at Mooresville at Core. There's a strongman professional. There's two of them, and I will kick them either to Derek Devon or Terry Ratty, and it's to say this is as far as I can take you. These guys will get you there, and that's just kind of. It's still the same thing. We're still kind of doing the same thing, paying it forward as we always have. I don't know. It's kind of. I don't charge when I do this. It's for the love of the game. All right, I took over. Bubba, your turn. There you go, Robert. Your turn. Ooh, I started taking over for him.
Yeah, I pretty much, up until earlier this year, I was helping with my mom take care of my grandma, and she passed this past spring, and that was hard, man, because she was my last grandparent. My grandfather had passed away 3 years prior, and they had been married since they were 15, or since she was 15. And when he come back from the military, they moved from Kentucky up here to a little town called Austin, Indiana. And after that, I've just been trying to take care of my mama because that's what my dad always said for me to do if something ever happened to him, and retired from wrestling. Nowadays, I drive a semi, and I also am half owner of a auto glass repair business. And between that and taking care of my mom and the farm that we have and everything, I'm pretty busy, and I get to see my kids and grandbabies whenever I can, and I don't get to see Jimmy near as often as I would love to. I miss him daily, and we can hang out. And, I mean, if it's been 2 or 3 years since I've seen him, we can hang out for 20 minutes, and it's like my soul's refreshed, man. I mean, it's a bond that you really can't put into words, because he's more than a brother to me, and it was always like that. We've never had ill words with each other. We've never been mad at each other, even as long as I can remember, and we've always had each other's back, and
never need be.
That's a rarity nowadays, to know someone has your back, even if you're in the wrong. Even if I'm in the wrong, Jimmy had my back. That's the real of it,
Was that? Are we talking about the bar down in? Was that the what is that? It's in Florida. It's Gator Bars.
No, I'm not talking about that.
He was, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you, don't tell Robert I'm telling you this. He, hitting on a married woman. And he didn't know it. I didn't know she'd have a ring on. And then, make a short story long. We wound up backing ourselves fisticuffs out of a bar because it's a married woman. I'll put it that way, but I know that, that's just, this guy's coming out and he's gonna fight, and like, okay, I gotta back him up because this is what we do.
I probably have gotten him into more real scraps like that than he ever did me. I don't think I ever had to actually back him up in something like that because he was the good one.
And that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, it is. But it was. We have created lifelong memories together, man. That nothing can ever take away. And like I say, man, just being around the dude for 20 minutes, a half an hour, it's like all my stress is gone. It's just
we don't have to say a word, man. Just be in the same room with each other.
Yeah, you don't even have to talk. We just look at each other and smile and start laughing.
I go down to his house on bow season, and last bow season I had a crossbow. He's got him a bow, and I said, man, because I'm down there, and his sons and his uncles they're all over the property. And I'm like, where am I going to go? He goes, oh, you're going to my stand with me. I said, I'm going in the stand with you. I got a buddy stand. It's a 500-pound buddy stand. Okay. How much can the tree take? Yeah, we did that. We got up in the buddy stand, got pictures, and, it's a good thing that we didn't see anything that day because neither one of us could actually stand up.
Yeah,
stand up,
we were like two sardines stuck in a tree stand.
But we were all morning freezing our butts off laughing. We could have had a 10-pointer come through, and we were just laughing so hard and just having a good time. And it's like, we were both there for the same reason, to put meat on the table. Not for trophies, nothing like that, but to put meat on the table. And it's just, I guess we just got carried away a little bit. Sitting there telling old jokes and reminiscing.
Yeah,
and that's
stories.
Yeah, we got there's Roger Blade wants us to do a show in December. I don't know what he's expecting out of it, if he's expecting us to do any wrestling or not. But he contacted us, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. If he wants to get together, that's not a problem.
Right.
Not a problem with the getting together part.
Right.
Yeah. If he put us against each other, that'd be all right. Lock up, and you stick your thumb in my eye, and then leg sweep.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. Who's doing the leg sweep? I'm not going down. I'm not pumping. I'm not going down. I'm not bending down to give you a leg sweep. How about just a hair pull? You still got hair.
No, I don't actually.
Yeah.
My hair is like a bird.
Yeah, I am just I was going with the denial for a while there, just like a lot of guys. But then I saw a picture, and my wife is taller than I am. She's about 6 foot. And after I saw a picture from behind, and I had a piece of bologna stuck on my head, I decided to go ahead and shave it, because that bologna, she got to see it all the time. All I saw was the front. And it looks good in the front, but it's time to shave
Had
it.
that Hogan do going on, did you?
Yeah, no. See, I didn't have, it wasn't going on in the front. It's just a big, and it's funny to see guys that we used to wrestle with still try to do the comb over, and it's like, dude, you are not 30 years old anymore. Do something better than that.
You got that right.
And I can't blame them. I mean, you can't, it's hard to give it up. And I actually believe that we would still be going at it if we didn't have the injuries.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
Yeah.
Definitely. In our latter years wrestling, I had gained a lot of weight. I got up to like 365 pounds. And be sitting there in the locker room, and I'm lacing up my boots. And I got this big roll of fat on the back of my neck, because I was 365 pounds. And,
is that the one we call the hot dog roll?
Yeah, well, you started calling it a hot dog roll. Then he started saying, you know what? I think that's more like a roll of bologna. Like not the slice, but the whole roll.
It's the big log. Yep.
Yeah. That'd be that quick.
That's another thing. We used to get in the locker rooms and we would all crack up on each other. I mean, it was nothing personal. And today, if you tell a kid, it's like, hey, man, you call them a skinny bastard, and they're like, oh, really? Yeah. I'm sorry, man. That's another one of my pet peeves. All the little the kids that you can't tell them anything because they don't want to learn. They know it all, and if and you hurt their feelings when you do. Yeah. Like, suck it up, Sally. This is the way it is. You need to quit doing 30 moves that make no sense, and then looking back at the locker room because you're not doing it for the locker room.
Right.
Okay. Again, I'm off my soapbox. Sorry. All right.
That's okay. Soapboxes are okay. Well, as we kind of wind down a little bit, I mean, honestly, it's been a lot of fun, guys, talking to you and getting to hear a little bit about everything. But, one last question for you guys. We live in a wonderful world of technology and social media. Not sure if you guys have migrated to the world of social media and you have a place that fans can follow you.
Not anymore. I mean, we got the GeoCities. It's just kind of like for me, I had to totally step away. I couldn't watch it on TV. And to this day, and I love to do this, but to this day, if I go to a local show, and I have friends that wrestle still, I mean, it's so hard for me to sit through a whole show and not get excited and want to get back into it and get brokenhearted again. And it's not because of I can do better than these guys. It's just the fact that these guys are out there pouring their soul out, and these guys,
and you miss that part.
Yeah.
Of it. There's a hunger for that. It's always going to be with you.
And it's just there's nowhere actually that I know that you can get a hold of us. I just kind of stepped away from it, and he's been so busy, and I think the friends that we had, the guy we had running one, I don't know. I haven't heard from him. Sad or whatever his name was.
20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, there's still one on GeoCities, but it is just beat up and not. I mean, you can find.
Yeah, we don't have any contact info on that, but it is still up. You can actually do like a Yahoo search.
Okay.
And type in the Bravehearts Celtic Tag Team Wrestlers, and that's usually the first one that pops up.
You have to put Celtic Tag Team Wrestlers in there, because the Bravehearts are, besides us, there's soccer teams, and there's, it's a popular name, popular movie. So and that's about, there's some old pictures of us there, close to real world. So talks about some of the the titles we held and at that time and everything. And I mean, that's the only thing that we actually have out there because it's. Go ahead.
I think there's like some pictures of us, some locker room pictures of us with like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dice Man Ronnie Vegas,
Valentine. Well, that's when we were doing the
Hammer Valentine.
That's when we were doing the DiBiase shows. Got those pictures there, and I'm not in it because I took the picture because we didn't have back then.
Right. Yeah, we actually used cameras.
Right.
Yeah. It was that was another experience of the DiBiase shows because it was, you're out there and he's got all the good guys out there with him and he's talking about Christ and he's bringing people into the ring and you're like at the time it was Hoosier Dome and 15,000 people are, and you're like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was random, but that was where we were going with that. So.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's absolutely okay.
Yeah, it was fun too, but it was about the time that all the injuries were catching up with us. And
yeah.
That was another time when we're telling, KK, you tell these guys that you can't do it. You just can't do it anymore. And,
we were actually on that show, we were supposed to work the Legion of Doom, which we both idolized, and that was kind of like, it was kind of like, oh my God, this is going to be one of the greatest matches we've ever had. And Hawk passed away, it was like, a couple weeks before that match.
Something like that. I don't know. It was.
Yeah.
And then that's another one thing for us too, as we're talking and you're trying to get away from us and we're not letting you.
You're okay.
The guys that we either were in the locker room with, like, well, Jake Snake's still alive, but Kurt Hennig is never, like, okay, you remember Prototype? You know who Prototype was?
Right.
Cena was Prototype, and Leviathan, and those guys going in and working with Rib Rogers and working with these guys to work with these guys to get them to fall right, because they've already wrestled. They've already come from these different places out west and east, but they're still landing wrong. And you're getting to show these guys how to do it. And that was, to me, an honor because, I'm not 6'5". I'm not built like a Greek god. If they stretched me out my weight, I could have been 6'5", but
yeah, you're more like a Buddha.
Yeah. But that one nerve I got left is getting a blister. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, but we I don't know. I lost my train of thought there. Thank you for doing the trick and the train and the woo. There you go, Bob.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well,
what was that?
Yeah, was I don't know where you were. I don't even know where you were going with that.
I don't know, where was I? I don't know.
It's okay, brother. That's like usual conversations with him. We've had
yes,
a few
head
injuries.
A couple chair shots, working with HWA and then having that's where I was going. Those guys. Yeah, the older guys that you think are going to live forever, and they wind up dying on you. And Guerrero and all these guys, and Pillman going to HWA and working with these guys, and that Pillman is, I think my chest is still sore from his chops. That was something. And that was getting ready for the HWA crap. That's just going in and training with them. And those guys you learned something when we did that, because they practiced how they did it. If you practice the way that you're going to do it, you're going to do it for real in front of the crowd every time.
Right.
And that's just at our age, because I'm 51 and he's 29 still, but he's rolling over. These guys are dying on us, man.
I'll be the big 5-0 next year.
Yeah. Don't worry, everything don't fall off at that age. You just got to wait a little longer. But just wait a little longer.
Right.
I just want to say thank you so much, man, for even having us on your podcast, man, and giving us an opportunity to share things. It's a real blessing. It really is.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun having you guys on here. You guys are pretty humorous, I gotta say. I wasn't expecting so many random funny stories, and I mean I love stories. That's what I'm all about. So I definitely thank you guys for those.
How
Anytime,
much
brother.
is this? Yeah, because we got more. We got a lot of. I'm sitting here and I'm talking to him, and when him and I talk now, it's family, because I've got a 9-year-old and 11-year-old. I've got a 25-year-old, and I'm now going to be a grandfather. That's new for me, and it's old hat for him. But he, one of the things that we get to talk about now it's the choice of being a grandfather and parent and watching your kids grow. And it's, you know, that sounds boring. I know it sounds boring, kiddies, but that's just where we are now. I mean, it's you enjoy. I mean, we did our stuff. We did our things.
It's the important things. It's the important things in life now. You know, it's. I mean, it's always nice to reminisce about the wrestling and everything, man, because you know I don't get to do it a lot. And but yeah, I mean, when we do get a chance to talk anymore, it's you know about what's important to us. You know, hey, you know, my grandson's doing this now, you know, or my granddaughter's doing this. You know, my oldest granddaughter the other day just got her first stitches. It was just one stitch, but
good for her.
Her little sister, I guess they were playing. They were in the tub. They were playing around, and her little sister decided to grab a glass toothbrush holder, one of the old antique ones that are real thick, and whacks her sister in the face with it and splits her eye open. And and I got to see her on her birthday, and she said, I said, "How's your eye doing, baby girl?" And she said, "It's okay." She said, "Don't hurt nothing like it did when it first happened." Well, I have a scar over the same eye, in my eyebrow, that actually came from a pair of brass knuckles. We won't go into that. But I was just, that was one of those after the wrestling night things. But I told her, I was like, you know what's cool? I said, you and I have got a scar in the same eyebrow. And, you know, I just to see her smile and, you know, and think that was cool, you know. Of course, you know, hers came from her sister and mine came from a bar. Right. But anyway, you know, it's the little things like that, man, that mean so much to me now, you know.
And it's not that our past doesn't mean, because I got a great friendship out of it. And there's a lot of let me rephrase that. A lot of great guys that I met along the way. But yeah, some were gay, but that's another story. Right. They're it's just where we're at now. And it's amazing, man. It really is to think. And I thank you, man, because it's brought us back to a lot of stories and things I haven't thought of in a long time.
No.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, because like I said, we don't talk wrestling. We don't talk. I mean, like, for me, I'll have a guy on Facebook say, "Hey, you know, I remember watching you and da-da-da-da-da-da," or when we're out, you know, like we'll go someplace to get something to eat, and then somebody will run up and say, "Hey, I remember you." And it's like, and they talk about working me down in Tennessee, or you know, you guys wrestled. We wrestled you guys up in Harbor, Michigan, and I'm looking at them going, "Yeah. Who the hell are you? Did you like the match? Was it good? Yeah, you guys were great. Did we win? Yeah." I'm like, okay. I don't remember. But yeah, I'm gonna let you go now, because if I don't, then we're gonna be sitting here forever.
Right. Okay. Well, hey, I'll go ahead and I'll close this out. But let me go ahead and just say this again, guys. I want to thank you both for, you know, taking the time out of your days and just sitting down, chit-chatting with me. I think we went about an hour or so, so this will make a really good interview.
Right on, man.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, man. I hope you got what you needed, and I know I did. So
right, absolutely.
And if you want to do this later on, do it again sometime.
It's such an honor, bro. I mean, really, it's kind of spurred some youth back up in me, if you know what I mean. You know, I mean, it's just good stuff, bro. Good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, all right, guys. Well, again, thank you both, and you definitely will probably have to catch up with you again sometime, do another Bravehearts episode. Make it a 5-hour episode. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, it's all right. We probably could do that.
Yeah, we
could make it a Saturday.
I guarantee you, we could tell stories that long. That's for sure.
Hotel rooms with the Samoan SWAT team, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, all right, guys.
I'm not going into that one right now because I don't know whoever paid for the hotel room. So.
Right. There's probably you're like I'm not really allowed back at that hotel anymore because of that, right?
Well,
Yeah,
we got bored.
Got a few of those.
Got bored, and we were taking quarters and throwing them into the wall. So I know we got the quarters.
Not like into a place, literally into the drywall.
Into the wall, into the drywall. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think that was the night that. Wasn't that the night that we got there and we flipped the sheets back and the cockroaches took off down in Texas? It was Texas.
Yeah,
I remember. I remember we were all dead. We were stuck in a van and nothing like showing up to a place with everybody rolling out of the same van. But the guys were working in here and blah blah blah. But small SWAT team were nutbags. They were fun, but they're nuts.
Well, I'll let you guys go. You guys be safe out there. Have fun with all you're doing. I wish you guys the best.
Yes, sir.
That's fantastic, brother.
You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes. And now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful, long, and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big-Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase. And thank you for joining us again this week here on the Dave Dynasty Show. Special thanks to Bobby Fulton for coming on and co-hosting at the top of the show. Thank you to Gary Woronchak for that great interview, talking about his past as a young photographer for the Sheik, promoting shows for the NWA, and of course, promoting and owning Midwest Territorial Wrestling and working for Bruiser Bedlam. So many things he did in his career. And of course, thank you to the Bravehearts, old buddies of mine from back in my my working days. What an interview with them, right? I mean, over an hour that they got to telling stories and reminiscing on the past, and that's what it's all about. That's what we're about here on the Dave Dynasty Show, bringing life back to Midwest professional wrestling history, as well as helping to promote and encourage the positives in the present day of Midwest professional wrestling. And we can't do it without you. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all your support and all the sharing. Thanks for all the great feedback you give, for all the stuff I put on social media. Make sure you are following us on social media. The easiest way to do that is to go to davedynasty.com. There are links there across the top for all of the social medias for the show. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, etc., etc. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube because I'm always posting professional wrestling from the Midwest on there, as well as the podcast. Look me up on Facebook, Dave Dynasty. Send me a friend request. I'm always posting cool stuff. Lots of newspaper clippings, etc., etc. So make sure you get on board with that. And make sure when you do, and you follow us, and subscribe to us and all these things, make sure you're liking and sharing our things we put out, and helping us network and reach more people. That's the purpose here on this movement we call the Midwest Express, is to reach more people. So help us do that. And remember, we bring you this show every week for free. I mean, what an episode we had today with the guests and the interviews and all the stories. And we're doing this for you every week for free. So if you can find it in your hearts and you got a couple extra bucks to help us out, we would greatly appreciate that. You can go to paypal.me/The Dave Dynasty and make a one-time donation. Or you can go to patreon.me/The Dave Dynasty to make an ongoing monthly contributions. And if you want to get a little something for your money besides the free show every week, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, look up the Dave Dynasty Show, and buy a shirt. We make some money off that, and we do appreciate it. If you go to davedynasty.com, there are also links for our Patreon, also links for our Amazon.com and HighSpots.com affiliates. Click those links, do your shopping. No additional charge to you, but we get a little kickback. We know the holidays are coming up. People are going to start their Christmas shopping If you're going to Amazon to shop, go to DaveDynasty.com first, click that link, and then do your shopping. Again, no additional charge to you, but we get a little kickback. Helps keep the show rolling, helps keep it free. We appreciate all you do. Thank you to, again, everybody that was on today. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you for all your support. And until next week, I am Dave Dynasty. This is the Dave Dynasty Show. Be good, be safe, and keep on growing.